assistance, we would not have an event. Enjoy today's inaugural Molson Vancouver Indy. Have a great day, and don't forget, take care when you head home this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, John Winter. Now, every IndyCar race begins with 4 magic words that, when said, create a noise unlike anything you've ever heard. So in just a few moments, we're going to ask for the cooperation and support of the thousands of people that have jammed into BC Place for the first ever Molson Indy Vancouver.
Every one of us on site here today are going to be part of this official declaration for the championship drivers to fire up this equipment and get us set to go. So we want you to rest the voices, or sort of gather your energies at this stage of the afternoon. Let's save it all for the 4 words, and seriously, let's have them echo through the mountains here in British Columbia today.
And if you don't know what those 4 words are, seek out a race fan sitting beside you. He'll tell you, or she'll tell you what they are. They are the words that bring the engines of these powerful hybrid racing machines to life. And we want you to say that you were part of the very first Molson Indy Vancouver by bringing the cars to life.
All right. Now, just about on the edge here for, well, we got a special gentleman actually to introduce first, I guess, David.
John Reynolds will help us get this underway, and that is going to happen in 7, 6,
5,
4, 3, 2, 1.
Gentlemen, start your engines!
John Reynolds, Minister of the Environment for the provincial government here in British Columbia, giving the official signal to start engines. There's a look on board with Al Unser Jr. We'll have 3 onboard cameras here this afternoon. And Bobby Unser, we are going to see the drivers go around. Wally was saying, what, a minimum 3 times?
Yes, it's the 3rd time by. So when they leave right now, you'll count that as 1. So the 3rd time by, it goes green and new race is on.
Now, say the 3rd time by, you have a yellow, a caution. What happens? They go around again, but it still counts as a lap of the race?
Yes, if they're not lined up, Nick Ferrano, the flagman, won't throw it, but the official laps will start counting. In other words, instead of being 97 laps, then it would be 96. But the guys know that, and they want to get the race started pretty quick, so they'll try to line up.
The chief steward here is Wally Dallenbach. The starter is the veteran Nick Fernaro. They'll go around 3 times. This track here, 1.73 miles, a total of 97 laps. And we're underway with the first of 3 laps here at BC Place in Vancouver. Perfect conditions for the first ever kart Indy race on the west coast of Canada. And let's take a look at the starting grid. 26 drivers are starting this race here this afternoon in Vancouver as they come out for the first of 3 laps. The pole position belongs to Michael Andretti, 27 years of age. Victories this year in Detroit, Portland, and the Meadowlands. Danny Sullivan could be desperate. Bobby will update the story. A winner at Cleveland could be out of a job in 1991. Bobby Rahal, 19 wins in the 80s, has wins in 8 straight seasons, has yet to win this year. Ari Luyendyk, the leading money winner. That, of course, because he won the Indy 500, but he's a surprising 4th here. Emerson Fittipaldi, the defending kart champion, has yet to win in 1990, returns to Penske next year. Here's Al Unser Jr. Now, he's only 6th fastest, but remember, he qualified only 8th and won in Toronto. Rick Mears, the great Penske veteran, 27 lifetime victories, 3 wins at Indy. Mario Andretti, his last win was in 1988 at Cleveland. Scott Goodyear, I tell you, qualifying 9th, a good showing for Scott. 7 top 10 finishes this year. And there's Roberto Guerrero driving for Patrick Racing. Guerrero did not race, by the way, in Toronto. The rest of the field, Teo Fabi drives for Porsche. Now, Fabi could be moving on next year. Didier Tage, John Andretti, and the other Porsche. Eddie Cheever, the Formula One driver, driving very well. Raul Bassell in the number 8 car. Scott Brayton, who's out of Michigan. A.J. Foyt, the great Texas veteran. Buddy Legier, who did not race in Toronto, as did Hiro Matsushita, missed Toronto. Ross Bentley is quite a story. A young British Columbia resident, a provincial tennis champion, a car racer here on the West Coast, a marathon runner, starting his first ever kart Indy race. So the surprise is, I guess, Bobby Unser, the fact that Mario and Al Jr. are so far down.
Well, that's not abnormal. We just have to keep reminding ourselves that this is a brand new racetrack. Nobody, when they came here, had any idea what the setups would be, Brian. So the guys start from scratch. Some of them hit it sooner than the others did. A lot of that, you know, is just gambling.
All right, let me ask you about setup. For those people watching not familiar with racing, what do you mean by setup?
Well, changing the springs and the sway bars, the air pressure in the tires. Ironically, I was talking to Willie T. Ribbs this morning. He told me that 2 pounds more air in the tires, and he could feel the difference on the rear end of his car. Now, these are radial tires now for the people that don't know that. And air pressure makes a lot of difference. And instead of going lower in air pressure, ironically, they usually go higher to make them stick better.
Right now, let's go down to Ken Daniels. Ken?
Well, we talk about setup, Brian, and these are the tires, the dry tires. This course is fairly bumpy. The teams have told me that they are worried that these tires may wear out quickly. What is normally just a 2 pit stop race in a length such as this could very well become 3. Rumor is the Penske team could make this a 3 pit stop race, and others may follow depending how the tires hold out. Right now, the Penske team planning on pitting at about lap 36. We send it back upstairs to you.
All right, it's interesting, Ken. Goodyear has brought a total of 1,300 tires here, 900 dry, 400 wet. They probably will not need the wet here this afternoon. A limit of 7 sets per car, as we were on board there with Michael Andretti, the pole sitter. As the cars now warm up the tires, they move back and forth to sort of warm them up, get them in shape. They're on the second lap. There will be a total of 3 laps in this race warm-up. Now, a big story here, Bobby Unser. The yellow line coming out of the pit area, the exit from pit lane. There is a solid line, a double line. Explain Wally Dallenbach's thinking.
All right, the idea is when you leave the pits, Brian, right there it is. Now the cars are going to have to remain either on that, and that's the right side tires, no more than on that yellow line that we're looking at there, and to the left. And that's for safety because the other cars are coming down here 140 miles an hour braking for that turn. They can't have the cars intermingling there. It's very dangerous.
Now, what if a car gets 1 tire over that yellow line exiting the pits?
That's called a stop-and-go penalty. Wally Dallenbach, who's at race headquarters, has 2 guys watching it, one on the outside and one on the inside. To be fair, he will call them in for a stop-and-go, which in real life, they'd lose about 15 or 20 seconds.
Through the start-finish area, you're on board with the pole sitter, Michael Andretti. This should be the final lap. They have 3 laps to go. They should be racing very shortly here in Vancouver.
Now, as you saw Michael cross the yellow line there, that's okay under race conditions. There's little Al aboard with him. But you can cross that yellow line when they're actually in race conditions. It's only a limit for the guys coming out of the pit. And when you see Michael and the other drivers weaving back and forth, they're trying to get the rubber in their tires worked up and get a little temperature in it. So when they go in the first turn, the cars will stick rather than slide.
The back markers on this field clearing the pit straightaway as they go around the 3rd time. We should be racing if everything is to the liking of the official starter, Nick Fernaro, when they come around this lap. Michael Andretti, followed by Danny Sullivan. Danny Sullivan, the word is, and we'll expand on this story here later this afternoon, is out of a job with Penske next year, could be moving on to a brand new team. In fact, might not even have a ride. Rumors all around this track concerning Penske. There's Scott Goodyear, the young Canadian from Willowdale, Ontario, a strong 8th place finish on that tight, slow course, but a very exciting course last Sunday in Denver.
That certainly is. And as we watch the cars go underneath, there's the beautiful PPG pickup pace car. Isn't that a beautiful pace car? We usually see pace cars instead of pickups. But look at how beautiful that is when it goes under the stadium and right back out. Beautifully wide track, smooth everywhere. Like through here, it's just glass smooth everywhere except on the first straightaway.
All right, let's look at the starter, Nick Fernaro. Are we going to be racing?
Nick is looking at him. Getting lined up, coming into the latter part of the lap here. Some of the pace cars are already in. You can see Nick up in the right-hand corner.
We are racing in Vancouver into turn number 1. It's Danny Sullivan following the pole sitter Michael Andretti, followed by Bobby Rahal. It's a clean, fast start. Down Pacific South at 180 miles an hour comes this 26-car field. Number 7 is Sullivan. Sullivan has already fallen behind Bobby Rahal. Now, Michael Andretti, followed by Ari Luyendyk, the Indy 500 champion, around that right hairpin turn. A great move by Luyendyk off the start.
And Bobby Rahal. I mean, they were really jockeying for position. Now, that's an indication, Brian, of how important it is and how hard it is to pass here. They have to get early on the race. And you can just see how hungry those guys are.
Now, we talked about last weekend Denver being a slow course with 16 turns, but they like to pass at 90-degree turns. Here they have swooping turns. Why do they like to pass on those tight turns? And we've got one coming up here, turn number 6 in just a minute.
Well, that's because when you have to really slow down and brake, then if a guy can outbrake, that's where he can do his passing. Now, this course is a little harder because it's got faster corners and the cars weave back and forth, as you just saw there.
On board with Michael Andretti, flying past the start-finish line and into the first left-hand turn. Now down onto Pacific South, and you get a tremendous sense of the speed as these big machines hit 170, and Luyendyk is out of this race. Look at this. Luyendyk, who was running well up at the front, qualified 4th. Ari Luyendyk, the Indy 500 champion, is through for the day.
He's obviously gotten into some problems in the beginning. You see the front wing is bent back, the suspension's bent, the right front tire's back. He's definitely out of the race.
So it's Michael Andretti now, followed by Bobby Rahal, Danny Sullivan, Al Unser Jr., Emerson Fittipaldi, Mario Andretti, Scott Goodyear, Rick Mears, Teo Bobby, and Roberto Guerrero. And there's a look at Luyendyk, who has not had a good year, excluding, of course, that tremendous win in the Indy 500. And he was very confident here yesterday afternoon. He said, this is a course I like. I've qualified 4th. He was very slow on Friday. And now a full course yellow as the Luyendyk car is in trouble.
A lot of people have accused Luyendyk, for example, of being a little bit lazy after winning all that money at Indianapolis. Now, the guy is more than a good race driver. He's really back with it. We watched him all during practice and qualifying, going very fast, so you can just imagine how sad he is here.
All right, here's what happened. There's Michael. And Luyendyk trying to catch Michael coming around that first turn.
Now you can just see he just got in that chicane or that turn too fast. He slid. The front end pushed or he got understeering. Just wouldn't make it. He hit the wall. It wasn't a real hard hit though, Brian, but it was enough to bend the suspension. Now these cars won't take much of a hit like that.
As we're under a full course yellow, stay with us. CBC's live coverage of the inaugural Molson Indy Vancouver will continue on Sports Weekend right after this.
Welcome to the 90s. Your time is here right now. You know the play, you know the way. The right fit now. You've seen that show, now you know. Nobody's gonna send you, 'cause you know where to go. Got it right, good life. Silver bullet, got it right, good life. You know the right fit now. Here she comes tearing up the street. Tight curves and she moves so sweet. Come on, baby, turn up the heat. It's a look you just can't beat. Looking good to me. Looking good. Looking good. Looking good. Looking good to you.
Very disappointed Luyendyk team. They had hoped to do so well here. They ran so well in the practice, got the car set up. Ari liked the track. Do you have any idea what happened, Neil?
No, not at this time. We've spoken to Ari on the radio, and he's fine, which is obviously the important thing. You know, he was out there. He was trying to go as well as he could, as early as he could, see if we could get a jump on the rest of the guys. So this time it didn't work out for us.
Do you have an idea that he might have been a little over-aggressive, or did you know that there was any problem with the car earlier?
No, we had no indication that there were any handling problems with the car or any other reason to suspect that he might lose control. Until we speak to him in more depth, we won't really know just what occurred. But perhaps he was over-aggressive, but then that's what he's paid to be.
And this has been a tough year for your team, winning the Indy 500, but you felt since then you've had to prove that you can win another race. Haven't been able to do that.
No, I think Indy 500 obviously was a great victory for us, but it does bring its own pressures, particularly from our peers. I think that since then we went into the doldrums for a little while. Now we're starting to come back out of those doldrums. We'll just keep beating away at it. We'll be back.
Ari Leyendijk's day is over early. Back to you, Brian.
All right, Sally, there's a look at the 1990 Indy 500 champion, native of the Netherlands, now based out of Phoenix, Arizona. We're under a full course yellow as we look at car number 30, the Domino Pizza car, the car that won the Indianapolis 500. Bobby Unser, we're now on the 4th lap. The full caution yellow occurred on lap number 2. For those people not familiar, as we look at the race cars coming around, there's Danny Sullivan, Al Unser Jr. Explain just what a full caution yellow means.
Well, on a road circuit like this, it means that everybody's going to bunch up as it does in all the tracks, but it also means that the track has to be unsafe. Otherwise, they wouldn't go full yellow. Normally, on a road circuit, they would go yellow just in one corner, and the guys would race around the rest of the track until they get to that corner again. But right now, for example, Brian, it comes very early in the race, lap 2, as you said, we're in lap 4 now. It isn't going to do anybody any good, for example, coming in and getting fuel. They're going to have to go at least like 10 to 15 laps before a yellow would benefit fuel usage.
And again, under a full course yellow, the cars can bunch up, but they cannot pass one another. We'll have at least one more lap of the full course yellow here, and while we await the resumption of racing, we'll pause for this commercial break. CBC's live coverage of the Molson Indy Vancouver will continue on Sports Weekend right after this.
You don't go to a Japanese restaurant when you're hungry for pizza. You don't go to a lamp store when you're looking for new pants. You always go to the experts. That's why you always take your GM car to your GM dealer for factory-trained technicians and quality GM parts. GM Parts and Service, the expert choice. Why would you go anywhere else?
If you like the good hearty taste of steaks on the grill and fried eggs on the griddle, here's the offer you've been hungry for. Just buy a Genair Downdraft cooktop now and we'll give you a free griddle on the side. And right now we're celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Genair Downdraft grill range with a special low price of just $16.99. Visit these participating dealers soon though. An offer like this doesn't come along every year.
And on this Sunday afternoon, Labor Day weekend, I'm Brian Williams along with Bobby Unser, Sally Larvick, Ken Daniels, and our CBC Sports Weekend crew here in Vancouver. Right now, it's Michael Andretti leading Bobby Rahal, Danny Sullivan, Al Unser Jr. There is your starter, Nick Fernaro. We're under a full course yellow. What that means is the cars cannot pass. They can bunch up so the leader's lead diminishes, and the laps count as part of the 97 lap total.
And that other flag that's white with the red cross on it means that there's a vehicle on the track of which, not a race car, it's the wrecker picking up Ari Leyendijk's car from the little accident that he had.
There's Scott Goodyear, drives for Jim O'Donnell and McKenzie Racing, and there's Nick Fernaro giving one more lap. You see the finger from the starter. That means they're going to go around one more time, and we'll be racing again here in Vancouver, and a tremendous race it should be, because look at this. Andretti, Michael is leading, followed by Bobby Rahal, Danny Sullivan, who is desperate, Al Unser Jr., Emerson Fittipaldi, Mario Andretti, Scott Goodyear running 7th, Rick Mears, there's a look at Rick Mears, Teo Fabi in the Porsche, Roberto Guerrero, Eddie Cheever, the rookie from Formula One, and there is Bobby Rahal, who's running 2nd. There's number 7, that's Danny Sullivan, Al Unser Jr., there's Emerson Fittipaldi, there's Mario Andretti, there's Scott Goodyear, there is Rick Mears, and there is the Porsche of Teo Fabi.
And, you know, we saw more of an aggressive start, Brian, than we most of the time ever see on a road course. And again, it shows how important it is to get your passing done as early as possible, because this is a difficult track to pass on, partly because it's very fast.
Now as they come around, we should be racing. And again, this fast straightaway, Bobby, we'll talk more about it, through the chicane to slow them down comes Scott Goodyear. A little left-right turn, that chicane, and under the BC Place Stadium. But The long straightaway on Pacific South really has a turn going into the hairpin, so it's not easy to pass like it is, say, coming down Lakeshore Boulevard in Toronto, where you're going straight on into the turn.
Plus, it's weavy, bumpy. You can, and we'll watch the cars as we get the race going on, how bumpy it really is down there, which you can see how difficult it is to pass.
The full course yellow now for 3 of 5 laps here in Vancouver. They should be racing. They should get the green flag from the starter, Nick Frenaro. Michael Andretti is your leader. As the leaders now get ready to come down onto Quebec Avenue and into the start-finish straightaway.
You see the pace car ducked out. That means they're coming down for the green flag now, Brian.
And we are racing again in Vancouver. It's Andretti, followed by Rahal, Sullivan, Unser, Fittipaldi, and Mario Andretti into turn number 1 and onto this fast but very rough straightaway.
Now there's that shot going down the back straightaway. It just gives you an idea. Here's where they break down into it, how bumpy it is down there. This is the hairpin turn to the right. They're really in tight. Passing needs to be done as soon as they can again because it's so difficult here.
Now they put this chicane in, this little left-right turn, to slow it down. I have a feeling next year they may widen that because it's very, very narrow. It does more than slow these cars down.
It really slowed them down a little bit too much there, but they'd already done it. It's too late to change it. This is the first year in general. This is one nice racetrack.
Michael Andretti leading Bobby Rahal as we go down now to the pits and find out from Ari Lyondike himself just what happened. Sally?
Back into his pits. Ari, you must be very disappointed. First of all, you are okay.
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm very disappointed, not just because we're out of the race, but it's because of the fact that I made a little mistake, and it it cost us dearly, and it was you're running close to the walls all the time, but I just made a little mistake and I hit the wall on the inside. Not really hard, but it bounced the car off over into the other end.
It was alluded to that perhaps you were over anxious on the start because you wanted to get ahead because your car was working so well. How true would that be?
Well, pretty much when I got into second place, it was a gift because Danny made a little mistake and Bobby got caught out by that. And I could see I was quicker than Michael, so I really didn't take much chances, really. It wasn't a case of me trying to push too hard too soon because I thought the way that I was running compared to Michael, I would get by soon.
Okay, Ari Lyondike waiting to talk to his team members. Thank you, Ari. Back up.
Qualifying speeds.
And as we look at the race leader, Michael Andretti, how about the speeds? He's pursued rather by Rahal and Sullivan.
We predicted fast speeds, Brian. They've already turned qualifying speeds. Right now, just only 3 or 4 laps into this race.
Down through the start-finish area on board with the race leader, Michael Andretti. Here is the fastest part of this race course.
Now you can just watch Michael and watch how much he's shifting. Watch the bumps now as he comes down. Watch the suspension working on the car. Now here he's going down to the right-hand turn where it brakes really hard and into the hairpin right there. Now Rahal is kind of inching up. And look at Emerson, or excuse me, Danny right behind him. They're looking to do some passing.
All right, if we can stay with this camera, you see how tight this chicane is. No passing here. Look at this.
Very close now. The biggest problem is will they clip it? That's what happened to Ari Lyondike. He barely touched the inside wall that bounced him into the other wall.
Up under BC Place Stadium, that's Andretti, followed by Rahal, Danny Sullivan, and riding fourth is Al Unser Jr.
Now just imagine the pressure on young Michael right there. Rahal, Danny Sullivan right behind him. If he makes even one slight mistake, they're going to be all over him or by him.
And of course, Michael Andretti is a 3-time winner. The story coming into Toronto on July 22nd as we come down through the start-finish area at about 160 miles an hour was anyone going to beat Michael Andretti? Won 3 out of 4 races. Now, the question is, will anyone beat car number 5, Al Unser Jr.? And there is Al Unser Jr. trying for his 4th straight win. There's Emerson Fittipaldi, winless this year. And how about Scott Goodyear? Goodyear has now moved up to the number 6 position.
And you can see how hard Goodyear is driving the car as it was twitching around there now. That means he's getting the utmost out of that car that he can get. The boy's driving good.
Here's the Goodyear pass. Oh, outstanding as he goes by Mario Andretti at the hairpin.
Boy, that was really close there. And that shows you that there's not a whole lot of extra room when you get into the turn.
Scott Goodyear, who was 8th last week in Denver. Now we look at car 7, Danny Sullivan. There's an interesting story here, and we will develop it following this commercial break. Stay with us. Live coverage of the 1990 The first ever Molson Indy Vancouver will continue on Sports Weekend right after this.
Deep in the woods of Canada, you'll find many indigenous animals. The moose, the wolf, the loon, the beaver, and the skunk. You'll also find genuine Canadian beer. Molson Canadian, what beer's all about.
Can your motor oil take the heat? When today's engines reach high running temperatures, motor oil can thin out, break down, and leave engine surfaces unprotected. But Castrol XLR has been engineered to maintain a lubricating film, even at extreme engine temperatures. At Castrol, we believe if you can't take the heat, get out of the engine.
Jr. as we are back live at BC Place in Vancouver, straight towards the stadium. Into the left-hand turn comes the PPG Kart Indy points leader.
You can see the marks on the outside of that wall. That's where during practice some of the cars been getting that wall. It shows you, or indicates what happened to Ari Lyondike, how close they really get to the wall. Some places, there's paper on the wall. The guys are coming so close to them. That's just the bell sticker on his tearaway sheet. The guys come so close to the wall that they're tearing the paper off of it, Brian.
The leader is Michael Andretti through 11 laps, followed by Bobby Rahal, Danny Sullivan, Al Unser Jr., Emerson Fittipaldi, Scott Goodyear is 6th, Mario Andretti, Eddie Cheever, Rick Mears, and Teo Fabi rounding out the top 10.
Rahal is running so close to Michael. He's trying to push Michael so hard that he'll make him make a little mistake. Just enough where he can outbrake him into a turn.
Didier Taze, we understand, is out of the race, so that means 2 cars out of the race. Didier Taze is gone, as is Ari Lyondike, as Taze is in the pit. There are the cars 6, 7, and 8. Scott Goodyear, Mario Andretti, and Eddie Cheever, the rookie from Formula 1, who was 3rd in Toronto. Goodyear, car 11, followed by Mario Andretti and Eddie Cheever.
Didier Taze, for example, is one of the Buick-powered cars, the Vince Granatelli. Andy Granatelli's son from STP days.
Well, you speak about engines. The engine breakdown in this race: 10 Chevrolet, 6 Cosworth, 4 Judd, 2 Porsche, 2 Buick, and 1 Alfa Romeo. The breakdown for chassis: 19 Lola. Here's a Lola Judd you're looking at. That's Scott Goodyear. 5 Penske chassis and 2 March. The March chassis are the both Porsches. Now on board with Scott Goodyear as we look back and get a sense of speed as they come up under BC Place Stadium on Pacific North. Goodyear followed by Mario Andretti and Eddie Cheever. They are running 6, 7, and 8.
The lone Alfa in the race, the Alfa Romeo. That's new to the circuit this year, Brian. Roberto Guerrero's now running 11. Now, they've started brand new with the scratch from a brand new engine. They're in a new Lola now. They started this year, for example, on a March and switched to the Lola.
Now we're on board with Scott Goodyear. We had a look back. We look ahead as Goodyear comes into the number 1 left-hand turn. Scott Goodyear running in the number 6 position for Jim O'Donnell and McKenzie.
Now you can see how hard he's working on that steering wheel. You can watch the shifts. There's Michael coming into that chicane, that ever so slow chicane. Off to the left of the chicane, you'll notice when we look at it from now on, they do have an escape way through there if it ever gets blocked.
All right, as we take a look at our leaders, Michael Andretti, Bobby Rahal, and Danny Sullivan. Sullivan right there, coming through the turn right now. Car number 7. Let's go down to Sally Larkin.
And Didier's car is being ready to be towed back into the paddock area. He had a break in the right rear suspension, according to Vince Granatelli, his team owner. He said Didier tapped the wall and broke the rear suspension, so he's out of the race. Very disappointed, Granatelli. Back up to you, Brian.
All right, thank you, Sally. What about Danny Sullivan? The hot rumor is, as we look at Cheever trying to pass Mario Andretti, Eddie Cheever, who came from Formula 1, Mario Andretti, who hasn't won since 1988 in Cleveland. They are chasing Scott Goodyear down through the start-finish area. What about Danny Sullivan? The rumor is he's going to be fired by Roger Penske. What happens?
Well, it's not really fired. Brian, that's too harsh a word for it. What it is Penske, in my opinion, and the rumor tells us he's going to run a 2-car operation instead of a 3-car operation. Maybe 3 cars at Indianapolis, Michigan, maybe for some development work, but not 3 cars the whole year. The Pennzoil deal that he has with Rick Mears right now is going to go to Jim Hall. Remember Jim Hall, the old Chaparral days. The people up here in Canada will remember that. And then, for example, Danny Sullivan is a free agent next year. And if this all happens the way it is, which is all rumor, but we believe it'll happen that way.
Well, Danny Sullivan, rumored to be through with Roger Penske as we look at cars 6, 7, and 8. Scott Goodyear, Mario Andretti, and Eddie Cheever. Mario Andretti trying to make a move on Eddie Cheever, and now there's Andretti, followed by Ray Hall, and Danny Sullivan is car number 7. Now that means, look at Ray Hall's all over Michael. Danny Sullivan is third, with Sullivan going to Jim Hall, who Canadians know well from his days with the old Chaparral, as you pointed out, in particular at Mosport in southern Quebec. That means both cars will be Marlboro cars, including Rick Mears.
Absolutely. It'll be 2 cars on the Penske team. They'll both be Marlboro cars, and Penske will just let go of the Pennzoil deal, which will go to Jim Hall, who had it originally, ironically. He bought Pennzoil into racing.
A very, very close race. 15 of 97 laps completed. Look at this. 1, 2, 3. Michael Andretti, Bobby Ray Hall, and Danny Sullivan. Are you surprised it's this close?
Well, I really am. Ray Hall is putting on an enormous amount of pressure on Michael. You can watch at the end of the long straightaway.
That's Ross Bentley, the driver from British Columbia. Oh, no. One of the track attendants, I believe, was hit by the back left wheel as they were trying to push Bentley's car 27. Now, we will definitely, they're rerouting the chicane. Wally Dallenbach said this is what would happen. Now, they're supposed to go around with that Molson Canadian sign where the track attendant has been injured, but they're going to bring them straight through right now.
It appeared, Brian, that the track attendant was hit by one of the race cars. They were trying to push a car out of the way. Bentley's there to keep it clear for the cars. It's a dangerous place, the chicane is. We certainly hope he isn't hurt.
That chicane is a left-right turn, and we're under the full caution here. There's starter Nick Fredero, the second full caution we have had here this afternoon. The chicane, again, is quite simply a left-right combination to slow these cars down on that long Pacific North straightaway. Now, I hope we can get a look at this again. What it appeared was that the track worker seemed to run in to the car, to the rear of the car, as he attempted to get out of the way as they were trying to restart Ross Bentley, and we certainly hope the injury is not serious here.
As you remember last year, or excuse me, the other day when we went around the track in that beautiful PPG pace car, you couldn't see around that corner. That's what happened. A car came around, he couldn't see the guys working there, and he just hit one of the guys.
Al Unser Jr. under a yellow has come in for fuel, as has Bobby Ray Hall, but no, Ray Hall is in trouble.
Ray Hall is going the wrong way. He's being pushed around now. It appears by all the marks there that he spun coming into the pits, probably to avoid another car. Now this is going to be really costly for Ray Hall.
Now again, under a full course yellow, you can move up, but you cannot pass cars. You have to close the gap. They often come in for fuel and tires under the full course yellow. We are through 17 laps. And we now see that Danny Sullivan has taken the lead with Emerson Fittipaldi running second. Scott Goodyear is third. Mario Andretti is fourth. Al Unser Jr. is fifth. And we are on board here with Michael Andretti.
Now, they all came in to get a pits. We're lap 17. That was the time to come in and get your pit stop. Now, it's going to show on our serial scoring that Michael, for example, is down behind some of the cars. Like, for example, the car ahead of him there that have not pitted yet. But it'll all settle down. Maybe some of the other cars that haven't pitted will decide to come on in now.
A full course yellow with an injury to one of the track staff here at Vancouver this afternoon as they were trying to push car 27. That's the car belonging to Ross Bentley. a British Columbia native. There's your race leader, Danny Sullivan, followed by his Penske teammate, Emerson Fittipaldi. We will update the accident and the injury and, of course, the race situation when CBC's live coverage of the Vancouver Molson Indy continues right after this.
Over the sound of rain, we hear the roar of Pontiac excitement. It is a GM 16-valve 4 that survived 400 hours at full throttle without a whimper. And this world-class 6 is taken to the limit night after night, improving Pontiac endurance. GM engines are rated more dependable than all the other domestic makers. So take a closer look at Pontiac. With 77 models redesigned and engineered, GM is putting quality on the road.
If you like the good hearty taste of steaks on the grill and fried eggs on the griddle, here's the offer you've been hungry for. Just buy a Genair downdraft cooktop now and we'll give you a free griddle on the side. And right now we're celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Genair downdraft grill range with a special low price of just $16.99. Visit these participating dealers soon though. An offer like this doesn't come along every year.
And on this warm, bright West Coast Sunday afternoon, I'm Brian Williams along with three-time Indy 500 champion Bobby Unser, Sally Larvick, and Ken Daniels as we are back with the Vancouver Indy. We've completed 18 laps. Let's show you now why we are under a full course yellow. The injury to the track worker. Explain what happened, Bobby.
Okay, you can see they're getting behind the car
Ross
to give
Bentley.
a push because it's in the chicane. Now, two cars can't get through there at the same time. So the course workers are doing what's necessary to be done. You can watch one course worker look back. Now they see cars coming around. They ran right into the car. You see, they literally ran into the car because they knew there was problem. Now the course workers made a mistake. It just was a bad place. It's very unfortunate, and we hate to see something like that happen because these guys are the very best in course workers.
It looked like he ran into the car 25 of Willie T. Ribbs. Willie T. Ribbs running in the number 15 position.
And Willie was out as far as he could go. We're not picking sides on this thing, and it's an unfortunate thing that happened. The timing was just wrong. But we understand that he is at least alive and doing well as could be expected.
It's a full course yellow. The standings. Danny Sullivan. There's Scott Goodyear. Scott Goodyear is now running third, but Scott Goodyear has not yet pitted. Explain it again, Bobby, because a lot of people keep asking me, explain this fuel setup coming in, how the yellow works.
Well, it's different game plans. Now, the Scott Goodyear team has decided to stay out and move them up to third place, and they're going to gain from that. But what they really have to do is they have to gamble that there's going to be another full course yellow. Otherwise, they made a bad decision by not pitting now. Now, in my opinion, I feel that Scott Goodyear should have been pitted by now, but he wouldn't be up in third place.
Well, we're under a full course yellow. Of course, these laps count as part of the 97-lap race total. Stay with us. Live coverage of the Molson Indy Vancouver will continue on Sports Weekend right after this.
Well, this is it, opening night. Yeah, our own bar. Not exactly standing room only. Not exactly, is it? Pickle egg? No, thanks. Good Irish, the first of three. In that case, I'll take two. I'm not going back in there.
Rocky Mountain Way is better than the way we had.
The Rocky Mountain Way. It's the Coors way. Fresh tasting, free and easy.
Yeah, I think we're going to be all right. We need waitress. Yes, right.
Comes tearing up the street. Tight curves and she moves so sweet. Come on, baby, turn up the heat. It's a look you just can't beat. Looking good to me. Looking good. Looking good. Looking good. Looking good to you.
Just after 2 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon as we are back live in Vancouver. We're under a full course yellow through 20 of 97 laps. Danny Sullivan leads, followed by Emerson Fittipaldi. There's Sullivan. Fittipaldi with the number 1 emblematic of being the defending overall champion. Running third is Scott Goodyear. They're followed by Mario Andretti, Al Unser Jr., Eddie Cheever, Rick Mears is 7th. Michael Andretti, they now say, is 8th, but again, some cars have stopped for fuel. Others have not. There's your leader, Danny Sullivan, under a lot of pressure. Word is he will not return to Team Penske in 1991. He needs a ride. His asking price, $1.6 million, is said to be too high, but betting is he'll go to Texan Jim Hall with Pennzoil sponsorship. That means the Marlboro cars next year will be driven by this man, Emerson Fittipaldi, and by Rick Mears, who is now in the bright yellow Penske Pennzoil machine. There is Scott Goodyear.
Now, this is the escape road through that chicane that we talked about earlier. This is where the cars are going. As soon as they put up a yellow flag, see the guy standing on top of the wall there waving the yellow flag, the drivers are instructed to go right through there instead of going through the chicane, which is there to slow the cars down.
Bobby, we talk about fuel. It's methanol as opposed to gasoline, which is a mixture of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And I'm wondering why the advantages to methanol.
Well, methanol, for example, I'll give you some of the things, Brian. It has half of the BTUs, that's the energy or the heat, as gasoline. For example, you'll use twice as much methanol. Or let's take the cars hold 40 gallons. Another example, if we spilled it out on the ground, it would be, and we lit it afire, it would be equivalent in heat as to 80 gallons of gasoline. Now, that's a lot of difference. Plus, methanol is lighter than air and would evaporate. It evaporates at a lot lower temperature. And gasoline is heavier than air, so it would evaporate and fall right on the ground, becoming very explosive. Methanol will not explode, gasoline will. And I hope I didn't confuse everybody.
Well, you certainly explained it thoroughly. The fuel cell introduced in the early 70s, the fuel tank is behind the driver and in front of the engine. It was developed by Goodyear. It's made to military specifications, and they say is virtually puncture-proof. But that's interesting that methanol is not as explosive, and that would explain why we have had so few serious fires as compared to back in the 60s and early 70s.
Now, the down part of it that you hear about often is the fact that it burns very clear. In the bright sunny day, as we have here in Vancouver today, you really can't see it burning. So you just have to assume that it's on fire, and what puts it out? Water, the thing we have the most of, and especially here in Vancouver.
Water everywhere in this city. Just a magnificent day, a beautiful city. I tell you, the drivers, people that have never been up here to the Pacific Northwest, absolutely raving about the city of Vancouver. For those of you just joining us this afternoon on Sports Weekend, we're under a full course yellow. We've now gone through 21 laps under a full course yellow. The laps still count as part of the 97 lap total. On the right of your screen, they are just sweeping up there. One of the track workers trying to push Ross Bentley. Now, Ross Bentley was running in the number 22 position. He's a former provincial tennis champion, car racer, marathon runner. His first ever kart race, he was car 27. There's Bobby Rahal. They were trying to push Ross Bentley. They were in that chicane, that tight left-right turn to slow the cars down in that Pacific North area, when around came Willie T. Ribbs. He tried to go wide. He tried to miss the worker. It was just an unfortunate accident. The worker actually ran into the side of Willie T. Ribbs' car. You're holding up two
workers, Brian. It was a very unfortunate incident. As we watched Bobby Rahal just a bit ago, I just wanted to mention that Bobby Rahal is running 10th now. He was running 2nd a little while ago before we had the accident and went yellow. Now, the reason for that is that he apparently spun coming into the pits. Now, we don't know exactly why, but we also know they go very fast into the pits because pit stops here are extremely important.
And there is a look at Bobby Rahal, Gallus Craco, car number 18. Bobby Rahal has won a race 8 consecutive years prior to 1990. He has yet to win this year. He put on a tremendous battle with Al Jr., his teammate, at the Michigan 500, and also waged a gallant fight last week in Denver, but did not win.
Now, my guess is we saw a shot right there of Michael Andretti and Bobby Rahal. Now, that shot was from them coming into the pits. They obviously were having a contest. Who's going to get there first? Had a tie. Both of them were at least stopped.
So it appeared that Rahal may have bumped into car number 3. That's Michael Andretti as they pitted under this full course yellow. Right now, let's go down to the pits and Kenny Daniels.
Thank you, Brian. As a matter of fact, that incident between Michael and Bobby Rahal prevented Mario Andretti from pitting. The word from the Andretti crew to Mario was, follow Michael, stay with the leaders if you want to come in. He was going to, but then that incident prevented him. They're not going to pit on this yellow. They are gambling. They will get another yellow. Mario's car is bottoming, which means that they're having some problems with the springs, and those will have to be adjusted. Back upstairs to you.
Okay, now that changes things an awful lot. See, that was a forcible pit strategy change, because Mario would have pitted then, as we thought right there that Scott Goodyear should have done it also. Now, the guys should stay in sequence. Now, they have to hope and pray for another yellow. Not an accident like we had, but just another yellow. Full course, though, because that's the only way they can close up.
There's your race leader, Danny Sullivan. Car number 1 is Emerson Fittipaldi. That's Scott Brayton. Brayton has been lapped. The number 3 car is right there. Car 11, that's Scott Goodyear, followed by Mario Andretti, who's 4th. Al Unser Jr. is now running 5th. Nick Fernaro is the starter. The yellow caution flag, the white flag with the red stripe simply means there's an emergency vehicle, a tow truck, or an ambulance still on this course. Now, earlier today, Wally Dallenbach, the former driver and race director here, and still no fingers from the starter at the right of your screen. If he was to resume racing within a lap or two, he'd be holding up fingers, so I would assume we are going to see at least 2 more laps of full yellow caution here on the West Coast. But Wally Dallenbach was telling us it's ironic that should anything happen in those tight little left-right chicanes, they would simply run the cars straight through and bypass them, and that, of course, is where that very unfortunate accident occurred. There is Scott Brayton out of Michigan. He is car number 22. Car 31 is Jan Bikas. They've been lapped. There's your 3rd place car, car 11 Goodyear, Mario Andretti. Al Unser is 4th. Eddie Cheever is now running in the top 10 and running very, very well. Let's go down now to Sally Larvin.
And I'm with Barry Green, who is the team manager for the Gallus Craco team, and a little update on what happened to Bobby out there. Let's get your opinion as to what happened when he came to the pits. He did spin. Did he make contact with Michael?
Yeah, Sally, he came back on the radio after the pit stop and just said that he didn't give Michael enough room there. You know, it was under a lot of pressure, and we're going to try and make up the time in the pits, but he's not too bad off, really. Back down the pack a little bit. Fuel is pretty good, so we're looking good.
Car working pretty well. Was there any problems after the spin?
No, he's happy with the car. You know, the worst problem is right now is we're back down the pack a little bit, so he's going to have to take it easy coming back through.
Mentioned that fuel is a problem. Is this going to be a concern now that the yellows are here?
Fuel's a problem. Yeah, the yellow came out just, well, it's a problem for us because the yellow came out just a little bit early. Come out a couple of late laps later, we would be fine. But now we've still got to try and do it on 1 more stop. Whereas the Penske's have elected to stay out, and they're going to do still have 2 stops, and of course they've got a clean racetrack too.
Okay, so you're worried about the fuel situation now. What your strategy is going to be for 1 more stop?
Well, we've just got to pace ourselves and get a lot of fuel numbers from Bobby and just tell him where he's at so he can pace himself. And
it's a good story here.
The car work as it is. Right back up front here.
Okay, the Gallus Craco team, Bobby Rahal, worried about fuel already. The strategy is already beginning. Back to you, Brian.
All right, Sally, and as Bobby was just saying, there's a good story on the pit deal here. Expand on about it.
Well, what happened is we have the Penske cars that have chosen to stay out. Now, this is a typical Roger Penske gamble thing. Nick Ferrano's giving them 1 more lap to go and see him close up now. So they should start the next lap around, but it's a typical thing with Penske. He needs to get up in front. He realizes that it's a little hard to pass on this track. He wants to get his cars up front. He's gambling. They're going to have another yellow before the pit stop should have occurred, which should have been around lap 34.
You are on board with Michael Andretti, who is now running with that pit stop in the number 8 position. Michael Andretti winning 3 out of 4 races, Detroit, Portland, and the Meadowlands prior to coming into Toronto, where he was the favorite. However, in Toronto, he was defeated in that race by Al Unser Jr. Stay with us. Live coverage of the 1990 Molson Indy Vancouver will continue right after
this. This is a research laboratory. It tries and fails to make Castrol motor oil break down. It's the place where Castrol is torture tested to meet the requirements of those who punish motor oil the most. You, the everyday Canadian driver.
There are many professional money managers offering mutual funds, and ultimately, they're all judged on their long-term performance. But only one manager is the country's 20-year growth leader, Mackenzie Financial Corporation and the Industrial Group of Funds. So don't settle for second best. Ask your independent investment fund dealer or stockbroker about the Industrial Group of Funds. At Mackenzie, we're looking both ways to manage your money for the long term.
As we come back live to Vancouver, I look at the stats of my broadcasting partner here. You know, before winning that 1968 Indy 500, you'd won 3 straight races. That was your 4th consecutive win, 35 career victories. You know, Canadian fans may not realize that there have been, including today, 15 IndyCar races in Canada. Going back to 1967 at Mossport, Ontario, the first race won at Mossport, and it was won by Bobby Unser.
And I've loved Canada ever since. But besides just the racing, this is a neat place to come to.
Do you remember that race at Mossport in '67? As I understand, we've got another lap and a half before we'll be racing again. We're on board with Scott Goodyear. Scott Goodyear running in the number 3 position now as he comes out of that hairpin at the end of the long Pacific South straightaway on board on Pacific North. And this is where the unfortunate accident happened. They're going into the chicane, a left-right turn. Now, the accident happened right about here. A track worker struck by the car of Willie T. Ribbs as they tried to assist Ross Bentley. We will update his condition later in the show as they make it available to us here at race headquarters. But Bobby Unser won the first IndyCar race run in this country back in 1967 in Eagle Ford. You remember that race?
I certainly do remember it. Boy, I'd be pretty bad if I didn't remember my first IndyCar race and where I won it. Mossport is one beautiful place to be. All of Canada is, of course, though.
Some of the other races, Indy races over the years, 1967, Saint-Jovite, Quebec, Mario Andretti won. 68 at Mossport. The winners were Dan Gurney and Mario Andretti. A.J. Foyt in 77 at Mossport. Danny Ngaias in 78 at Saint-Air, Quebec in the 80s. It was Sullivan, Rutherford, and Rahal. Then, of course, on to Toronto in 1986. Rahal, Fittipaldi, Unser, Andretti. Again, Al Unser Jr. this year. And the 15th Indy race ever run in this country is going on right now. One more lap under the full course yellow. That is Nick Fernaro, the official PPG kart starter. They have now run 10 of 25 laps. It's a 97-lap race under the full course yellow. It's Danny Sullivan, desperate for a win. He wants to up his value as he looks for a new team next year.
All right, now let's be sure and tell everybody again, watch for like Emerson Fittipaldi and Danny Sullivan. They have not hit it. They still will have to come in for fuel. They will still have to make 2 pit stops, whereas most of the other cars, like Little Al, Michael Andretti, guys like this have made their pit stops. They'll only have 1 more to make probably during the race.
Danny Sullivan, the 1988 kart champion, 14 career wins, won this year in Cleveland, had 4 wins in 1988, the 1985 Indy 500 champion. The first time I saw Danny Sullivan race, he was driving for Ken Tyrrell, a Formula One race in Detroit back in the early 1980s.
He really came from road racing, from this type of racing. He was very good that way, but he's also adapted very good to oval tracks. He's won Indianapolis. He can win oval track races. He can win in any type of a circuit. Now, as we've said before, he's on a hot deal today. He wants to win very bad to show everybody that Penske's going to be at the loss, not him when he leaves Penske next year.
What about Teo Fabi as we look at Danny Sullivan? Emerson Fittipaldi running 1-2 under the final lap of a full course yellow following that tragic accident involving the race workers struck by Willie T. Ribbs' car. He has been taken to hospital. In fact, 2 workers have now been taken to hospital here in Vancouver. We're coming around. We should be racing again. I understand, though, Teo Fabi could be leaving Porsche. In fact, Porsche may be out of kart racing next year.
Well, that would be sad, but that's what the strong rumors are, that Porsche just won't be in kart racing at all. Now, here they come. We'll go on that a little bit more later. Here they come onto the straightaway for the green flag.
Off Quebec Avenue, onto the start-finish straightaway. There is the green flag from Nick Fernaro, Danny Sullivan, Emerson Fittipaldi, Scott Brayton, and running third is car number 11, making the pass right there into the corner, Scott Goodyear. Goodyear out of Willowdale, Ontario, passing one of the back markers, one of the cars. That was Jan Beekes, who has been lapped.
And that's a hard place to pass. That was a good move by Scott Goodyear.
Scott Goodyear is now running third. He has not come in for fuel. Car number 19 is a lap down. Car 19 is Dean Hall. You just saw him go by Jan Vika's car 31, also down a lap.
Now you can look at little Al going through the chicanes there. Accelerating. Mario was working on him really hard.
Al Unser Jr. is running fifth. Let me run down the top 10 for you as Al Unser Jr. is pursuing Scott Goodyear. He's moved up to fourth now ahead of Mario Andretti. Al Unser Jr. has moved up to fourth and is threatening to pass Scott Goodyear and move into third place. Now Unser, trying to get by Goodyear, is not able to do it.
Now that's a Chevrolet engine versus the Judd engine that Goodyear has. Little Al should be able to pass him. If nothing else, he should have horsepower on Goodyear.
Here's Goodyear, still pursued by Al Unser Jr. Goodyear running third, followed by Unser, Mario Andretti, Eddie Cheever, Michael Andretti, Rick Mears, Bobby Rahal, and Teo Fabi rounding out the top 10. Down Pacific South at 180 miles an hour comes Willowdale's Goodyear, all over him in that Lola Chevy, the Gallus Craco, and we're on board with him, Al Unser Jr. Let's watch as Unser goes after Goodyear.
Now that Scott Goodyear is doing himself proud right there. Looks like little Al might have
got by him.
He got by him all right. They switched cameras, went to Goodyear. That was a fabulous pass right there, but had us holding our breath for a while. Goodyear doing it. I'm sorry, Brian. Goodyear did himself proud there. He kept little Al at bay there quite a bit longer than we would have thought.
As we look at little Al, he is now pursued by Scott Goodyear, who is fourth. And again, Scott Goodyear running with the inferior Judd engine. Chevrolet, a much more powerful unit. That is Scott Brayton out of Coldwater, Michigan in the Amway Special. Now, Brayton is a lap down. Unser will go by him. Unser is running fourth. Al Unser trying to pass Brayton on the straightaway at the start-finish area. We're on board with Al Jr. He makes the pass into turn number one and down onto Pacific South comes three-time winner Al Unser Jr. 3 in a row. He's one coming in here to Vancouver.
Now, Scott Brayton would have not put up much of a fight there. He realizes that he's down a lap. Just from common courtesy, he would have let little Al go by pretty easy. Now this is down into that sharp chicane again. There comes Danny Sullivan, Emerson Fittipaldi, who's falling back just a little bit right now, Brian.
The top 10 with 29 of 97 laps complete. There's Emerson Fittipaldi. He is running second. It's Danny Sullivan followed by Fittipaldi. Al Unser Jr. is third. Scott Goodyear fourth. Mario Andretti fifth. Michael Andretti sixth. Eddie Cheever seventh. Rick Mears eighth. Bobby Rahal ninth. Teo Fabi is running 10th.
Now remember, these two cars, Danny Sullivan and Emerson Fittipaldi, have not filled up with fuel. They're very light on their fuel, which makes them faster. There's little Al went by who has stopped for fuel. Scott Goodyear right there has not stopped for fuel yet. Which means the cars are lighter. When they're lighter, they go quicker, and especially on a road circuit because the acceleration factor and weight is so important together.
Scott Goodyear running now fourth behind Sullivan, Fittipaldi, and Al Unser Jr. There is Rick Mears, car 2, followed by Bobby Rahal. Mears is 8th. Rahal is 9th. Mears next year will drive under the Marlboro banner as Pennzoil is going to Texan Jim Hall with a new team. Rahal, he's won in 8 straight years. Car 18 has not won this year. Rahal does not make the pass into the hairpin, so Rahal is still following Mears.
Boy, look how close his nose is tucked up under. His nose is literally under Rick Mears' car right there. Now, he would have liked to pass there, but as we said before, it's a very difficult place to pass, almost impossible. Rahal is really working on Rick hard. This is a hard place through here because the cars go back and forth from the left to the right back. Here's another spin in the chicane. Roberto Guerrero, one of the Porsche cars. Both of the Porsche cars are down there. The road is literally blocked. They'll have to open it up on the other side like they did a little while ago.
That is the Alfa Romeo of Guerrero. Behind him, and boy, you've got great eyes, are both Porsche cars, Teo Fabi and John Andretti. Again, full course yellow here on the West Coast, and again it's occurring right where that serious accident involving the 2 track workers with Willie T. Ribbs occurred, and you're right, they're going to straighten it out. They're just going to bypass that chicane, get the cars out of here.
Now that's what they should have done, wishfully a little bit sooner than last time when the course worker got hit down there. Right there is where he got hit. Obviously that chicane is causing some problems. It's too narrow and it's very slow. Now there's another car Dominic Dobson, who was stopped. The course workers gave him a little push, probably got him started to get him going. Roberto Guerrero, the engine is dead. He's coming out of the car now. We don't know why his car quit, Brian, but he could have mechanical problem for him to be getting out.
It's a March chassis with a Alfa Romeo engine, and into the pits come both Penske cars. Sally.
Yes. Danny Sullivan. Mark.
All right, that pit stop, less than 12 seconds for Danny Sullivan, and as he goes out, he has dropped behind his teammate Emerson Fittipaldi. Al Unser is the race leader now. They must have all four wheels inside those yellow lines. Watch for that when they come out of the pits. If they get one wheel over the yellow line, also in the pit is Scott Goodyear. Now watch when he comes out. Goodyear must stay inside the yellow line. He gets one wheel over that yellow line. When he exits the pit area, he will force to come in, stop, wait, and start again. There are all the wheels inside the yellow line until he gets near the end. It's allowed to go out of it at the end. That is for safety reasons as they exit the pit, as the other cars, the racing cars, come down that start-finish straightaway.
Now, the important thing that we're going to learn through this pit stop now is that Penske cars, Danny Sullivan, Emerson Fittipaldi, and Scott Goodyear got that yellow that we were talking about. Penske threw the dice, Goodyear people threw the dice, they won on it. Now they're back in sequence with all the other cars. In fact, just a little bit ahead of them right now.
As we are back in sequence through 32 of 97 laps, let's give you the standings. We're under a full course yellow, the third full course yellow of the afternoon. Let's run down the top 10 for you. Al Unser Jr. is our race leader. There's Eddie Cheever. Eddie Cheever having obvious trouble with that Chevrolet engine. Eddie Cheever is currently standing in the number 10 position. Eddie Cheever, driving for Chip Ganassi with a Lola Chevrolet combination, was third in Toronto. Let me run down now for you the top 10 under the full course yellow. Al Unser Jr., Michael Andretti, Emerson Fittipaldi, Danny Sullivan, Rick Mears, Bobby Rahal 6th. Running 7th is Willie T. Ribbs. Buddy Legier is running 8th. Mario Andretti 9th, and Eddie Cheever was 10th. However, Eddie Cheever has engine problems. You are on board with the race leader, Al Unser Jr. Stay with us. Live coverage of the inaugural Molson Indy Vancouver will continue exclusively on CBC Sports Weekend right after this. Stay with us. Lots more to come.
When we went out, his idea of formal dress was a leather jacket over a t-shirt.
Never knew what they saw in him. He wasn't as good looking as me and didn't have half the personality.
Well, he got into trouble the odd time by being a bit wild. But he was a good kid, really.
Molson Special Dry, the evolution of beer.
There's a world of fun waiting to sweep you up. And it's at your curling rink. Get swept up in the fun of the game.
Get swept up in the fun of the people.
Curling will sweep you up in action.
Exercise.
Good time.
And a world of new friends.
On the ice.
And off it.
Contact your local curling club or curling at 737-3040.
Curling! Get swept up in the fun.
With three-time Indy 500 champion Bobby Unser, Sally Larvick, and Ken Daniels, I'm Brian Williams. An absolutely magnificent day here in Vancouver. You're on board with the Vancouver Molson Indy leader, Al Unser Jr., 33 of 97 laps complete. We are under a full course yellow. Roberto Guerrero has just dropped out of the race. That's why we're under yellow. And I understand Ken Daniels has an explanation. Kenny?
I do, Brian, and let's hear it right from the mouth of Roberto Guerrero. What happened?
Well, for some reason, after we first burst the tire, and the car was reacting pretty funny, but, you know, I just touched a wall and I broke a wheel, so my fault.
Just your mistake? You weren't over anxious?
No, I don't think so. It's just one of those things that happen.
How about this course? How's it been handling?
Oh, it's okay. You know, it's the same for everyone, so everybody has to handle it. It handled me, so.
Okay, it handled Roberto. He is out. We go back upstairs now to Brian and Bobby.
You know, Brian, that is the lone Alfa Romeo entry. Roberto is quite a good race driver. This is a new development program this year, so we're seeing him have problems, but ironically, they've really gained a lot of speed at this track. It's a shame that he's out.
And we are under a full course yellow because of another incident, and they've all occurred with the exception of Ari Lyondike's in that chicane on Pacific North. A little left-right combination. We're going to see that chicane. We're on board now with Michael Andretti. Here's where all the troubles have occurred. They put in this left-right turn. They're coming up here now. They feared the drivers would be going too fast here. They didn't want them to go straight up under the stadium, so they put a little left-right combination here, but it's too narrow. That's where the serious injury occurred with the two-track workers. That's where Guerrero just had problems, and that's where Wally Dallenbach, prior to this race, told both of us, Bobby Unser, we're going to make changes next year.
Yes, it is, and so the people know, you can see the shadows underneath the stadium there. They didn't want those cars going in there like at 190 miles an hour in the shadows. Right there, you can see it. And it was better to slow them down. I just think that you learn from your first year, and they've learned this year that the chicane is not proper. They've slowed them down a little too much, made it too narrow. They needed to slow them down, but it was just a slight overreaction to it. Now, every incident, with the exception of one, has been right in the chicane. There's Eddie Cheever. They're towing him to try to get him back, but they're back to the chicane problems again. It's so narrow they can hardly get all the cars through there.
Well, we're still under full course yellow. We should have at least one more lap. We'll look for starter Nick Frenaro as they come back through the start-finish area. They're now towing the Eddie Cheever car off the course. Let's see if Frenaro holds up one finger. No, not yet. So we're going to have at least one more lap under the full course yellow. Lyondike, who qualified fourth, went out very, very early when he brushed the wall on the first turn on lap number 2.
Didier Tays, same thing. Roberto Guerrero, same thing. Guys are bumping these concrete walls. Now, there's Roberto Guerrero's Alfa Romeo. Now, the reason they're bumping the walls is not because it's not a good racetrack. It's because they're trying very hard. This racetrack for a street race is ironically a lot wider than most, Brian.
All right, I asked Bobby Unser during a commercial break, I said, what do you think so far? There have been so many laps under the full course yellow. What do you think of the race? You had an interesting answer.
Well, yes, we haven't had the race yet. We've had so many laps under the yellow, it hasn't happened, and again, it's because of that chicane down there. Just too many problems, but the race will settle down pretty soon. You know, we were starting to see some of the hardest racing that you could ever see on a road circuit. It's just they're kind of antsy.
They are kind of antsy indeed. Eddie Cheever is back in the pits with his Lola Chevrolet, the Chip Ganassi team. Eddie now living in Phoenix, Arizona. An American who grew up in Rome, raced Formula One for many, many years. We're under a full course yellow, 35 laps complete out of a scheduled 97, so a lot more racing to come. As Bobby said, we really haven't even started racing yet here in Vancouver, and Cheever is back on the track again, has to stay inside that yellow double line. They can put 2 wheels over as they come out at the end, but they must have all 4 wheels inside the double yellow line. If they were to get a wheel outside those 2 yellow lines, the race director, Wally Dallenbach, would simply wave them back in. They would have to come into the pits, stop, and restart, and that is known as a stop-and-go penalty.
Yes, and Eddie Cheever, the car we're watching right there, came from Formula One, but ironically, he's a rookie in kart this year, but he's an exceptionally good rookie.
There is Nick Frenaro. One more lap. Oh, I don't want to see that again this afternoon. Let's hope we have some racing, as it has become a familiar sight here. Frenaro signaling to the 22 cars, I believe, still left in this race, that they will be racing as they come around for lap 38. Let's run down the top 10 as we prepare to race again here in Vancouver. Al Unser Jr., the leader, followed by Michael Andretti. Rick Mears has now gone up to 3rd. Emerson Fittipaldi is 4th. Ray Hull is 5th. Danny Sullivan is 6th. Willie T. Ribbs, the only black driver in IndyCar racing, a team sponsored in part by comedian and actor Bill Cosby, is now running 7th. What a story that would be if Ribbs could finish in the top 8. Mario Andretti is 8th. Scott Goodyear from Willowdale, Ontario, is now in the number 9 position. And Hiro Matsushita, who did not race in Toronto, from Japan, as we're on board with the race leader Al Unser Jr. through that chicane. Here's where all the troubles have occurred. He's right behind the pace car. The pace car will come off as they enter the start-finish area, and we should be racing again here in Vancouver.
And I think one of the most interesting things they're going to have to watch now is the different game plans that the different teams will have because of when they've made their fuel stops and their tire stops. Everything is going to change now. Everybody has a different way to look at it the rest of the race.
They get about 1.8 miles per gallon. The track is just under 1.8 miles, so you figure a lap to a gallon. Under yellow, you figure maybe 2 laps to a gallon. The race is 97 laps, so simple mathematics, they would have to pit twice in this race. They've pitted once so far. There's Al Unser Jr., your leader. A.J. Foyt is car 14. He is down a lap and running in the number 14 position. Al Unser Jr., who won in Toronto, won a sensational race in Michigan, won in Denver. Now the green flag from Nick Fernaro. We are again racing in British Columbia. Al Unser Jr. through 37 laps is your race leader. We're on board with Michael Andretti. Michael Andretti is now running second.
Now, little Al really jumped him on the start. That comes from driving sprint cars. You know, sprint car racing really teaches you how to do a good, fast start, try to get the advantage, and he did there. Sometimes, though, Nick Ferrano doesn't throw the flag when it's that much of a jump that a guy gets.
Car number 1 is Emerson Fittipaldi. He's pursuing Rick Mears and running in the number 4 position. He is winless so far in 1990. Through that troublesome left-right chicane, up under Pacific North and BC Place Stadium comes this field.
Now, the traffic is really bunched up right now. Brian, you have to really watch. There's Rick Mears working on A.J. Foyt. Now, it gets so bad when they restart like this with traffic that they all have to be just a little bit careful.
Foyt again is a lap down. Mears goes by him. Mears is now running third behind Michael Andretti and Al Unser Jr. There's Mears. He's running third. Foyt is a lap down. Behind Mears come Emerson Fittipaldi, and Bobby Rahal is now running in the number 4 position. There's Rick Mears running third. Fittipaldi is fourth.
And remember, Rahal spun, as did Michael Andretti, or partially spun, coming into the pits for their first pit stop. That's the reason he's back so far, but he's on a charge coming up right now.
Emerson Fittipaldi, Bobby Rahal, and car 7 is Danny Sullivan. They are 4th, 5th, and 6th, respectively, through the hairpin and back up beside BC Place Stadium.
They watched Danny Sullivan duck right in under Foyt. He had to get by from the traffic because it's so hard to pass through the chicane.
38 of 97 laps completed here in Vancouver. Emerson Fittipaldi, the defending kart champion, car number 1. That's what that signifies, has yet to win in 1990. Scott Goodyear. Scott Goodyear is now running, let me see, in the number 9 position. There's Rahal trying to make a move on Andretti. Rahal is 5th. Rahal has yet to win. Rahal was sensational at Michigan in dueling his Gallus Craco teammate Al Unser Jr. down through the start-finish straightaway. Emerson Fittipaldi pursued by Bobby Rahal.
You can tell how fast the guy is here. It's a hard place to pass again, but you can tell how fast they are because look how aggressive Rahal is. Now, right now, he's probably been the fastest car on the track. It's just he's been in the back, and it's hard to pass.
I understand Fittipaldi is unable to hear his pit crew. Word is from the reporters in the pits that they're having trouble communicating with Emerson Fittipaldi, so they're using hand signals, Bobby. Explain for the viewers again about the communication, the electronic communication. There's one of the Porsches. That is Teo Fabi. Teo Fabi in one of the 2 Porsches. John Andretti drives the other. The word is Fabi, as he comes out of the pits, next year will race for a different team. Porsche could be gone. But tell me about communication, electronic communication, pits to drivers.
Well, when the radios don't work, and often they don't in these race cars because we have high-frequency vibrations that just sometimes destroy radios. They'll mount them in foam rubber. They do everything to keep them alive, but they're not very reliable. So what happens? They go back to the old hand signals. When they come by the pits, like if they'll hold a finger up, one finger up, that might mean tires. Then the guy will give him on the board, you want a right front or right rear, that combination. Or the 2 fingers might mean a wing adjustment. Then they'll say up or down, so they can communicate that way.
But normally, if everything is working, the driver should be able to talk via radio with the pits.
Yes, and most of them can. But again, the radios are not very reliable. Every race that you start, every race we ever see, there's 2 or 3 guys lose their radios.
Emerson Fittipaldi is car number 1. He is currently running 4th. Live coverage of the Molson Indy Vancouver will continue on Sports Weekend right after this.
GM is now offering extremely attractive cashbacks on every car and truck in stock. 1990s and selected 91s. But do hurry, because there's always a chance with incredible cashbacks from $500 to $3,000.
Oh, no. Oh, no. 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 Don't worry, honey. He's too late.
Your time could quickly run out.
Can your motor oil survive the punishment today's engines dish out? Circulating it twice as fast, working it twice as hard, breaking it down and causing it to lose its viscosity. That's why you need an oil with the additive that does more to help prevent viscosity breakdown. Castrol XLR, the oil engineered for today's car.
Now some great racing as we come back live to Vancouver. Emerson Fittipaldi is 4th. Bobby Rahal, car 18, is 5th. He's been all over Fittipaldi.
Oh, you just don't see anybody any more aggressive than Rahal is. His nose has been literally under Emil's car, under the wings, up, almost touching the transmission of the car. Look at that, zigzagging back and forth. Danny Sullivan, sitting right behind him, is probably wondering, God, I wish he would either pass him or quit that zigzagging back and forth.
Well, right now, Fittipaldi 4th, Rahal 5th, Sullivan is 6th. Our leader is Al Unser Jr. Look at this, down for the start-finish straightaway. Emerson Fittipaldi, Bobby Rahal, and Danny Sullivan. Rick Mears there is running 3rd.
Now, this is the good racing we've been talking about. You just can't get it much better than this. Now, remember, all of these are Chevrolet powered. Got 2 Penske's. Bobby Rahal is in a Lola. There's a Penske car. Rick Mears in a Penske car. Danny Sullivan's in a Penske car. So we got a Lola right in the middle of them. And Lola's been good this year.
Car 2 is Mears. He's 3rd. Fittipaldi is car 1. He's 4th. Followed by Rahal, who's 5th. And Sullivan, who's 6th. Unser and Andretti are 1-2. But what a race between Mears, Fittipaldi, Rahal, and Sullivan. Look at Rahal.
This is harder than qualifying. These guys are doing qualifying laps every lap. You can't try any harder than what they're doing right now.
Interesting yesterday, Bobby, we were talking about the fact Fittipaldi hadn't won this year, but you said yes, but he's run the car very, very hard. And I tell you, he's running hard now, as is Bobby Rahal, possibly even running too hard.
Emerson has led a lot of the races this year, and at times, and especially on the ovals, where he shouldn't be as good, is done exceptionally good. But he's either hurt the car is broken, or he's run the tires right out from under the car.
Rick Mears, car 2, Emerson Fittipaldi, Bobby Rahal, and Danny Sullivan running 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, respectively. What a tremendous race after those long full-course yellows here in Vancouver. And let me update that accident. 3 workers, not 2, were injured in the collision. Track workers with the car of Willie T. Ribbs. The workers were pushing Ross Bentley. They tried to get out of the way of Ribbs' car. They were struck by Ribbs' car. They've been taken to St. Paul's Hospital here in Vancouver, one with a broken jaw, one with a broken ankle, and the worker that was most seriously injured, the hospital has had no comment. So 3 workers at St. Paul's in Vancouver.
Well, we certainly hope he's all right, Brian. Just look at this. Now, Rahal, this is the place where they would like to pass. That's the straightaway that we've been telling everybody is rough. Look at all the skid marks coming in. The problem with the skid marks, with so many of them, is it's a little rough, so the tires are not getting the traction. So it's preventing the passing.
Through 44 laps, Emerson Fittipaldi, Bobby Rahal trying to make a move on Pacific South, and again Fittipaldi pulls away. 2 is Mears, 1 Fittipaldi, 18 Rahal, and 7 is Sullivan.
All Chevrolet engines, all equal Chevrolet engines, the same amount of horsepower. The driving and the chassis are the only thing that's making a difference right now.
Finally, some tremendous racing after a slow, long start here to the afternoon. Emerson Fittipaldi has not won this year. Bobby Rahal is all over him. Bobby Rahal, 19 victories in the 1980s. He is 2nd in victories only to Rick Mears.
Never seen road circuit racing any closer, any harder than this is. If it was a little bit easier to pass, probably wouldn't be nearly this close. These guys are really working each other over hard.
And again, as we look at these long, sloping corners, they're not easy to pass under. They like a sharp right-hand turn like there.
And as you see Ray Hall get off to the side of Fittipaldi there when he goes into the turn, what he's doing is hoping that Embo locks his brakes up. Just makes some little mistake, then he could go right by it. But you can see how hard it is.
Outstanding racing, and as again they come down the fastest part of the course, it's still Rick Mears, Emerson Fittipaldi, Ray Hall, and Sullivan running third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. They don't pass under braking here because they're turning. It's not straight into the corner like Toronto. And again, they like to pass under braking into a 90-degree turn. They had many of those in Denver. They do not like to pass under those long, sweeping curves through the chicane where the accidents occurred earlier today, as we are now through 45 of 97 laps here in Vancouver.
We can see by how hard it is to pass why the start was so important, and why we saw Ray Hall and Michael Andretti and Ari Lyondike hustle so hard at the start of the race. It's just very difficult to pass here.
Prior to this race, Al Unser Jr., who is our race leader, and Ray Hall does not get by Fittipaldi. Sullivan all over Ray Hall. Al Jr., our race leader, compared this track prior to actually running on it on Friday to Long Beach, California. Now, we see Rick Mears, car 2. That's Fittipaldi. Then Ray Hall all over Fittipaldi. Then Danny Sullivan. They are running third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, respectively. Running 1-2, Al Unser Jr. and Michael Andretti. Scott Goodyear is now up to the number 8 position. That's where he finished 1 week ago today on that tight, turny course in Denver, Colorado. Live coverage of the Vancouver Indy. Hope you're enjoying it this afternoon on Sports Weekend.
As you see them go into the chicane, Brian, you just see how they have to single file. There's just no attempt to pass to the fast cars there. There's little Al going across the start-finish line, right by us, into the turn 2.
Michael Andretti right behind our race leader, Al Unser Jr.
The 2 juniors. Michael, well, not really a junior, Mario's son. One fast race driver. These 2 guys have been on a hot streak all year. They've just dominated most of the racing.
I asked you yesterday, I said, are racing car drivers made or are they born? And as we look at the sons of great drivers, you had an interesting answer.
Well, I used to make speeches about how everybody was self-made by desire. Today, I have to say, genes must have something to do. Look at there, little Al came from Big Al, came from the Unser family. Michael Andretti out of the Andretti family. I predict someday that Michael Andretti is going to be as good as the daddy, and that means he's going to really be good.
A lot of rumors here that Michael Andretti could be heading to Ferrari. More about that later. Live coverage of the 1990 Molson Indy Vancouver will continue on Sports Weekend right after this.
Welcome to the 90s. Ah, you know it's your turn now. You know the look. You know the hook, you know the raving now. Whoa, that's the test, you say the best. You change your style, baby, not the rest. Got it right, good like silver bullet. Got it right, good like know the right thing now.
Thunderbird Home Centers, the smart choice when it comes to home improvements at the right price.
As we come back live to Vancouver, through the start-finish area is our race leader, Michael Andretti. He has just passed Al Unser Jr. So it is Michael Andretti, Al Jr. second, Rick Mears third, Bobby Rahal fourth, Danny Sullivan is fifth. Emerson Fittipaldi has now dropped down to the number 6 position, but Michael Andretti just making that pass on Al Jr., and here it is.
And it's an outstanding pass. That's right into turn 6. Look at the car weave. That's all the braking the car can have. He got that one like, that's what you call splitting the hairs.
That was turn 6, a 90-degree turn onto Quebec Avenue. Yesterday, when you took me around in the pace car, you said to me, turn 1 will not be the passing area. It could be. Definitely not after Pacific South. You predicted the best passing in turn number 6.
But it was a difficult pass. Anytime somebody can get in there deeper than little Al, who's got exceptional depth perception, they're really doing a good pass. Now, Michael did it. Just a beautiful pass.
There is Rick Mears. Rick Mears is running third for Pennzoil, the yellow car number 2. Car number 7, Danny Sullivan, is now 5th. Bobby Rahal is 4th. Emerson Fittipaldi has dropped down to the number 6 position.
Interesting enough now, Rick Mears leading Bobby Rahal, doing an outstanding job. A lot of people think that Rick Mears is not a good road circuit driver. And Brian, it's just the other way around. He came from road circuit type of racing. He's one of the best I've ever seen. The problem was, is he got into a wreck at St. Air, Canada one time.
St. Air, Quebec?
Yes, St. Air, and broke both of his feet. His feet have never been quite up to par. But every year they get a little bit better, and it's starting to show today.
And without strong feet, you can, of course, race on a super oval like Indy because you're not using the clutch and the brake. But you need your feet on a road circuit or a street course like this as Rahal pursues Rick Mears because there's so much shifting and braking. Under braking, Rahal does not pass into the hairpin. Rick Mears continues in the number 3 position, followed by Rahal, Sullivan, Fittipaldi, and Mario Andretti. And let's go down to the pits. Sally Larvin.
And we had talked to Barry Green, who is the team manager for Bobby Rahal earlier, and his concern was that he might have to make 3 pit stops because he pitted so early. Well, they have just finished their calculations, and they say they're going to bring Bobby Rahal in at lap 61, 62, or 63, and that will take them to the end of the race. So their concern about fuel is no longer. They're going to be able to make it in 2 stops. Back to you, Brian.
All right, Sally. Very, very interesting, Bobby, that they will not have to make the 3 pit stops as Rahal tried to take Mears under braking, did not. Mears is still 3rd into the start-finish area. Again, it was at turn 6 going on to Quebec Avenue. Down through the start-finish, Rick Mears, Bobby Rahal, and Danny Sullivan.
Well, that obviously, turn 6 is going to be the best place for people to attempt passes today. Rahal is trying Mears every place, every turn. Look at him here. He's always offline, hoping that Rick makes a mistake. Look at his nose, right underneath Rick Mears' car. But he just can't seem to get by.
They took that hairpin at about 45 miles an hour after hitting 188, 189 coming down the straightaway. Rick Mears, Rahal, and Sullivan running 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Our race leader is Michael Andretti. Let me run down the top 10 for you. Michael Andretti, Al Unser Jr., Rick Mears, Bobby Rahal, Danny Sullivan, Emerson Fittipaldi, Mario Andretti, Scott Goodyear 8th, John Andretti in the Porsche 9th, and Willie T. Ribbs is running 10th. Your race leader, Michael Andretti, into that left-right chicane. Al Unser Jr., who has won 3 straight. Won a very slow race in the rain in Toronto. Sunday, July 22nd, live here in Sports Weekend. A couple of weeks later, won the fastest race ever. They averaged 2:23 racing at the Michigan Speedway in southern Michigan. Went on to win an even slower race than Toronto, albeit a very exciting race last Sunday in Denver. Will he make it 4 in a row here today?
Now, Michael Andretti was our pole sitter. He had the fastest qualifying speed. Little Al was an ace. Right now, it looks like Little Al would have got his car handling very good. The cars are just virtually the same. They're both Lola Chevrolets. The only difference of these 2 cars is how the drivers prefer them, how they're set up. Just went by the pits, out of number 2 turn. Look at them. Their grooves, the way the cars hang on the road, the amount of bouncing that they do. There's its speed, 170 miles an hour right there, going down the long straightaway into the hard braking turn to the right. Virtually the same.
We talk about the bouncing as we're on board now with Al Unser Jr., who's trailing Michael Andretti. Look at his head bouncing. Strong necks, they take a tremendous beating.
Oh, they certainly do. In fact, in a lot of the racetracks, they're pulling, like in Michigan, 5 G's of force. So they have to have straps on the helmets or something to lean the helmets up against. Michael is smoking. That probably looks like it's coming from the right rear, Brian. It could be brake trouble. It's going to be serious, whatever it is. Look at the smoke coming out.
Michael Andretti was the pole sitter. He has just retaken the lead. He had a little trouble braking there, a little skid. On to Quebec Avenue, back down into the start-finish area, and into the pits comes Michael Andretti. Is he through for the day? We have a new race leader.
He's got fire. The black smoke indicates something serious is burning, not alcohol. It's probably some of the body panels that are burning. Everybody's starting to throw water on it. Water is the best way to put that fire out. Michael is coming out. He figures that he's over because he's on the fire.
All right, Ken Daniels.
The fire, yes, it is out. They got the water on him as Michael gets out rather quickly. It was interesting that further down the pits, I was standing with Jim O'Donnell, the team owner from the Mackenzie Scott Goodyear's team, and he thought Michael's engine was going. He heard it going as he went by, but the crew was up and over the wall very quickly as Michael is out of the car, and we'll try to get a word with him shortly. Back up to you, Brian.
A very disgusted Michael Andretti. Michael Andretti second in the point standings to the runaway leader right now, Al Unser Jr., and he's through for the day.
Yes, and it's sad. Michael's had some really exceptionally good races this year. Now we've got a lot of the cars in for the pits now, coming in the pits.
Bobby Rahal is in the pits. Mario Andretti there is coming out. Mario Andretti is now running. Let me see. He is well down in the number 9 position. Now Rahal is now dropped down to 6th, though it's Al Unser Jr. first, leading Danny Sullivan, Emerson Fittipaldi, Scott Goodyear, John Andretti, and Bobby Rahal. Into the pits is Al Unser Jr. Sally?
And Al Unser comes into the pits. He's taking on fuel and new tires. The same car that he won Toronto and Michigan with. He's had 11 wins on temporary road courses during his career. He finished refueling. They got him down off the jacks, and Al Unser Jr. is off. A good pit stop for Al.
Well, a good pit stop for Al, but Bobby, you're just pointing to Nick Frenaro as we're on board with the race leader, Al Unser Jr.
Yellow all the way around the track, Brian. That means another bunch up. Now, what is this going to mean to us right now? Total new game plan changes again. It's going to bunch the cars up again. We're going to have one heck of a good race as soon as they go green again.
There's Danny Sullivan into the pits. Danny Sullivan was 3rd, now drops to 4th. So under a full course yellow, and let me see, that's the 4th one we've seen here today. It's Al Unser Jr., Emerson Fittipaldi. Scott Goodyear has now gone up to the number 3 position. Sullivan now coming out of the pits. Good pit stop, under 11 seconds is 4th. John Andretti in the Porsche is 5th. Bobby Rahal 6th. Mario Andretti is 7th. Rick Mears 8th. Willie T. Ribbs 9th. And Albert Buddy Legier in the number 10 position.
Now keep in mind that we're into another pit stop. This is lap 55. Normally they weren't going to come in till 66, but on a full course yellow, you're just about forced to come in because otherwise you're going to be empty and maybe have to pit under the green.
Well, Bobby Rahal pursues Danny Sullivan. Sullivan is 4th, Rahal is 5th. I want to know what happened to Michael Andretti. Ken, can you bring us up to date?
We can, as Michael Andretti is in conference here with just about everybody. His head moves out of the way. Michael, what happened to a disappointing finish?
Yeah, we have a broken exhaust pipe.
Sorry, I couldn't hear, Michael.
Broken exhaust pipe, broken header.
Obviously running so well up until that time to make the disappointment even worse when you're in the lead.
Yeah, as soon as I got in the lead, it started to go, and it's a shame because we caught Al pretty easy and passed him pretty easy, and I think we could have pulled away. It's just a shame because the Kmart Alvin car was running strong.
Okay, Michael, we're sorry about that, and we send it back upstairs now to Brian.
All right,
well,
Ken, Bobby.
Brian, I was just going to remark, that really is a lot of lady luck. They put on brand new exhaust systems, which cost about $10,000 each. Every time that they go to a race like this, it's so important. To have an exhaust system break is abnormal. And what happens, it breaks inside the car, starts burning all the carbon fiberglass around there, and that's where the smoke was coming from.
Well, a tough break for Michael Andretti under a full course yellow. Live coverage of the 1990 Molson Indy Vancouver will continue on Sports Weekend right after this.
You don't go to a fish market when you need a new raincoat. You don't go to a pool hall when you're looking for ballet tickets. You always go to the experts. That's why you always take your GM car to your GM dealer for factory-trained technicians and quality GM parts. GM Parts and Service, the expert choice. Why would you go anywhere else?
Can your motor oil take the heat? When today's engines reach high running temperatures, motor oil can thin out, break down, and leave engine surfaces unprotected. But Castrol XLR has been engineered to maintain a lubricating film, even at extreme engine temperatures. At Castrol, we believe if you can't take the heat, get out of the engine.
as we look at Bobby Rahal running in the number 5 position. We're under a full course yellow here in Vancouver. 57 of 97 laps complete. The leader is Al Unser Jr., followed by Emerson Fittipaldi. Scott Goodyear is running 3rd. Danny Sullivan is 4th. Bobby Rahal 5th. Mario Andretti 6th. Rick Mears is 7th. Running 8th in the Porsche is John Andretti. Willie T. Ribbs is running 9th. And rounding out the top 10 from Coldwater, Michigan, Scott Brayton. There's your race leader, Al Unser Jr. And we understand we're under a full course yellow because Jan Bikas in car 31 has had some problems. Bikas with a Lola V8 Judd is out of this race.
Interesting thing right now, I was just doing a little bit of calculation. This is what makes this racing so exciting in a lot of ways. I think a lot of them are still going to, or at least most of them are still going to have to make one more pit stop. And my calculations are showing just towards the end of the race, Brian.
I should tell our viewers watching Coast to Coast here this afternoon, the broadcast booth looks like a school for mathematicians. Unser's got his calculator, he's got his stopwatch. We keep figuring out the fuel. And again, for those of you just joining us, these cars get 1.8 miles per gallon of methanol. It's roughly 1.1 miles around this track. So you figure 1 mile or 1 lap, 1 gallon. They have 40-gallon tanks. It's a 97-lap race, so they are going to have to stop for fuel on 2 different occasions. But of course, that is if everything goes perfectly. It did not. You have the yellow flags. On a yellow flag, you can probably get 2 laps to a gallon. So all afternoon long, we are constantly figuring out just what's going on.
Now, as we watch little Al right there, for example, my best guesstimation at this particular time, with nothing happening but green flag laps, is he would have to stop around lap 92. Now, if this happens, what he'll do is come in and get a real quick splash of fuel. Rick Gallus and crew, the Gallus Greco crew, will put in just enough to get him to the checkered flag.
And as we're under a full course yellow, Al Unser Jr., our race leader, through 58 laps. We've got 97 laps scheduled. We should have a tremendous finish. Let's go down to the pits, and once again, Sally. Sally?
Well, you've been speculating about the fuel situation in Al Unser Jr.'s pits, and I can confirm it. I just talked to Alan Mertens, who is the engineer for Al's team, and he said that, yes, there will have to be a splash and go at the end of this race, with probably just a few laps to go. So, Bobby, you were right on the mark. They are going to have to make a 3rd pit stop. Now, let's go to Ken Daniels.
Well, you heard a 3rd pit stop there. How many pit stops do you have to make, Jim O'Donnell, Scott Goodyear's team?
We think we've got to make one more, and we're hoping lap 60. We're at about lap 58, 59 right now, running into the yellow. So we can bring him on 60. That'll be the last pit stop. We've got enough fuel for the end.
And now Scott's running so well. You say he's never been more intense than today?
He's incredible. He's in 3rd place. We're listening to him on the radio. He's just yelling and screaming, and he's really got his nose into it. You can tell the intensity. He wants to win this one badly.
Okay, Jim, thank you, as we send it back up to Brian and Bobby.
Yes, now, Brian, I think that's a good decision. It's a bit of a gamble, but not a bad gamble. According to my calculations, it gives him 1 or 2 laps. That's all the safety he's got.
I think someone else had better get a big piece of paper here. We're running out of paper as Bobby Unser does his fuel calculations here. Scott Goodyear, you heard from Jim O'Donnell of the Mackenzie Financial Group. There's car 11, Scott Goodyear running 3rd. Over the years, Canadians in kart racing, Scott Goodyear, Ludwig Heimrath Jr., John Jones out of Thunder Bay, Jacques Villeneuve from Quebec, as we're on board with Scott Goodyear coming into this chicane where the serious injuries occurred. And again, let me update them for you. Ross Bentley, another Canadian, the 5th Canadian to be driving in kart racing. His first race was being assisted by several of the track workers. They tried to get out of the way. Willie T. Ribbs came around. They literally ran into the side of his car. One worker very seriously injured is at St. Paul's Hospital. The hospital has no comment beyond that. 2 other workers in the hospital listed now in fair condition, good condition, with a broken jaw and a broken ankle. We have no word yet on the 3rd worker from Vancouver St. Paul's Hospital. We have completed 59 of 97 laps. We're under a full course yellow. That means you can't pass, but you can bunch up. And of course, these full course yellow laps count as part of the 97 lap race total. We should be racing as they come back down through the start finish area. The pace car is into the pits. Nick Fredaro with a green flag. Al Unser Jr. is your race leader. And I'll tell you something, Willie T. Ribbs has just gone by, but he's a lap down. There's Scott Goodyear. There's car number 1. Fittipaldi second. Goodyear is third. Willie T. Ribbs, who is right behind Unser Jr., is a lap down, running in the number 9 position. Fittipaldi is second. Third, car 11, is Scott Goodyear. And again, Jim O'Donnell says Goodyear could come in at around lap 60. That would be any time. Danny Sullivan is fourth. Ray Hall is fifth. We're on board now with Scott Goodyear coming into that troublesome chicane.
He has to be really proud of himself today. In fact, his team has to be really proud of him, Brian. He's just come a long way in this race. He's probably gained more in this race than we've seen all year.
Scott Goodyear doing Willowdale, Ontario. Proud here this afternoon. His Lola Judd, he had hoped to get a Chevrolet engine next year, will not get it. His Judd engine is an inferior engine to the Chevrolets of some of the big guns like Fittipaldi, car 1 in front of him, and car 7 behind him, Sullivan, and car 18, Bobby Rahal.
Well, Goodyear certainly making it look today like the Judd engine as good as the Chevrolets, because he's been among the fast cars all day long. He's really done himself proud.
What a performance by Goodyear as he goes by Willie T. Ribbs, who is running in the number 9 position. Fittipaldi. Goodyear, car 7 is Danny Sullivan, who's fourth. Bobby Rahal, Gallus Craco is car 18. And he is now running in the number 5 position. What a race. Into the hairpin goes Sullivan. Around Willie T. Ribbs. On the outside, that is Bobby Rahal, and he was very lucky.
That's 2 abreast to the hairpin. Now, we haven't seen that all day, and I would have told you it was impossible. 2 abreast to the hairpin. Next thing we're going to see is somebody trying to make it through the chicane 2 abreast, and I don't think they can make it.
Now through 61 of a scheduled 97 laps. It's still Al Unser Jr. Scott Goodyear is third. Emerson Fittipaldi is running second. And Willie T. Ribbs is out of this race. Willie T. Ribbs, and again, it's that same left-right combination coming out of the hairpin where the problems have occurred. The lone black driver in IndyCar racing, but he's a good one.
It would appear that he just had a problem. He got in there. There's nothing wrong with the car. He just got in there too fast, had to stop. He decided to go on through. He created his own penalty, so I doubt that Wally's even going to bring him in for stop and go.
Danny Sullivan, car 7, is all over Scott Goodyear. Now, Goodyear has a Judd engine, a Lola chassis. Sullivan, a Penske chassis, and the superior Chevrolet engine will try to take him under braking. Does not in the hairpin. It's Fittipaldi, followed by Goodyear and Danny Sullivan. Goodyear remains third. Al Unser Jr. is your race leader.
Don't you know that Danny Sullivan is wondering what that Canadian Scott Goodyear has done to his car to be going so fast today? It's the first time we've seen any other engine be competitive with one of the Chevrolet engines.
Well, it was 1 week ago today on that very exciting, albeit slow course down in Denver, that Scott Goodyear finished in the number 8 position. See a yellow flag out there. It is not a full course yellow, though. Emerson Fittipaldi, Scott Goodyear, Danny Sullivan, second, third, and fourth, respectively. And Sullivan has gone into third place, dropping Scott Goodyear down to the number 4 position.
You could see Scott Goodyear started to turn into that turn, and Sullivan was already there. That gives you an indication how hard the passing is today.
On board with Scott Goodyear, down past the start-finish line, into the left-hand number 1 turn, up to about 185 miles an hour down Pacific South. And Goodyear is also being pursued now by Bobby Rahal, another Chevrolet engine. So Goodyear just does not have that power with the Judd engine. Rahal cannot take him. Rahal is running 5th. Goodyear is running 4th. Some tremendous driving here today by Willowdale, Ontario, Scott Goodyear.
I have an idea that Goodyear's team is going to be so excited after this race, they're going to say, hey, we have to do more for this boy. Have to give him a little bit more race car to get him going a little faster. He certainly has deserved it. His driving has just been impeccably good.
Well, I understand Jim O'Donnell was scheduling a little party down at one of the restaurants in downtown Vancouver following this race. I would suggest it could be a rather happy party for the O'Donnell-McKenzie team today. Al Unser Jr. is the leader. Danny Sullivan, we saw a little smoke there as we look at the straight finish area. Goodyear should be coming in. Now here's Rick Mears. There's Eddie Cheever, followed by Danny Sullivan, who is third.
Danny Sullivan just passed Emerson Fittipaldi. We lost it just as he got into the turn, but that was his brakes. His tires locking up, over braking on the front just a little bit. But he did get by Emo by doing that. Brian?
Danny Sullivan, let's see it now. Danny Sullivan goes by Fittipaldi. Watch the brakes locking up.
That's the right front, and that's coming from the bumps. Look at all the black rubber marks. Just look at them on your TV screen there. That's all the heavy braking that everybody's been doing, trying to pass. But we also know there's been very little passing there.
Well, some great camera work. We salute our CBC technicians and our directors, Jim Marshall and Freddie Nicolaitis, as we cover live this 1990 first ever Molson Indy Vancouver. Danny Sullivan, car 7, is running second. Al Unser Jr. is your race leader. It is not a full course yellow. There's an emergency vehicle on the track, and look at Eddie Cheever's got problems with that wing.
No, that was his brakes again.
Yeah, he's got a wing dragging, it looks like, on the right front side of the car. There it is, Bobby. It's
I'm
down.
sorry, you're right. You're absolutely right. I was watching the tires. The car was getting absolutely a little bit airborne going into that turn, and you could hear his brakes locking up or his tires squealing.
Fittipaldi's third. Goodyear is fourth. Rahal is fifth. Mario Andretti has now come up on Bobby Rahal. Mario Andretti is sixth. Al Unser Jr. is still your race leader. There we go. Emerson Fittipaldi, Scott Goodyear, Bobby Rahal, Mario Andretti very, very close for third, fourth, fifth, and sixth.
That's tight racing. That's about as close as you could get. The racing can't get much better than that.
Well, we had a very slow start here today. A tragic accident involving 3 course workers, long yellow flags, but now some outstanding racing. We are through 65 of a scheduled 97 laps here on the West Coast, and into the pits comes car number 12. That's
Randy Lewis in the Arciero car. That's one of the Buicks. That's the other Buick in. Looks like a regular pit stop for him.
Penske chassis with a Buick engine, and we see the emergency vehicle going off, and Mario Andretti is all over Rahal as Rahal goes by Goodyear and Andretti goes by Goodyear. So now Goodyear has dropped down into the number 6 position. We're on board with Goodyear. He's having trouble, I would say, Bobby. Something's wrong with the car, it looks like.
Well, he definitely kind of got blocked. He needed to go on out to the fence a little bit. Looks like he's going back up to speed now. But he was trying to get back out to the fence, but Mario was already there. Blocked his way, blocked his road for him a little bit. Probably what happened then is the Chevrolets definitely have a little more power. And he just got by him right there.
So now it's Al Unser Jr. first, Danny Sullivan second, Emerson Fittipaldi third, Bobby Rahal fourth, Mario Andretti, who hasn't won since Cleveland in 1988, is up to fifth. Goodyear is sixth.
You know what? We want to remember with Goodyear that he's spotting those guys probably 30 or 40 horsepower. You know, those Chevrolets definitely have more horsepower than the Judds. So, I mean, everybody just got to realize that Scott Goodyear's having the race of his life right now.
He is indeed, and this is Al Unser Jr. The string started Sunday afternoon, July 22nd, in the rain in Toronto. He won a fast race in Michigan, the fastest in history. Won a slow but exciting race last Sunday in Detroit. 3 in a row. He's trying to make it 4 in a row here today. Our live coverage of the 1990, the first ever Vancouver Molson Indy, will continue on Sports Weekend right after this.
Many Canadians live in isolated areas. They visit the city to take in the culture, the fine restaurants, the symphony, the theater, and genuine Canadian beer. Molson Canadian, what beer's all about.
If you like the good hearty taste of steaks on the grill and fried eggs on the griddle, here's the offer you've been hungry for. Just buy a Jenn-Air downdraft cooktop now and we'll give you a free griddle on the side. And right now we're celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Jenn-Air downdraft grill range with a special low price of just $16.99. Visit these participating dealers soon though. An offer like this doesn't come along every year.
With one of the all-time greats, Bobby Unser, I'm Brian Williams, along with Sally Larbick and Ken Daniels. Welcome back, everybody, live to Vancouver through 68 of 97 laps. Al Unser Jr., the lead about 15 seconds over Danny Sullivan. How important is that 15?
Well, it's really important. What he's trying to do right now is he has to make another pit stop, Brian. He's trying to get enough of a buffer where no matter what the other car's game plans are, that he can make it, get a splash of fuel, get back out, and not lose the lead. We can all see how hard it is to pass at this racetrack. So keeping the lead is more important here, I think, than any race we've seen all year.
Car 1 is Emerson Fittipaldi running third, pursued by Ray Hall, who's running fourth. We have more on the Fittipaldi strategy as we go down to Sally Larkin.
And Emerson Fittipaldi was one of those few drivers who did not come in on the full course yellow. You're going to bring him in later. What's the strategy, Rick? This is Rick Reineman, Emerson's crew chief.
Well, we decided to leave him out because he'll run better with lighter loads. We had to make another stop anyway, and fortunately, you know, we make that one more stop. The other guys are going to have to either turn it down or they're going to have to be making another stop also.
So continue on with that strategy. How's that going to help you? Because we've already heard that Ellison Jr. is going to have to make a third stop.
Well, they're going to have to stop. If they run the speeds that they're running now without turning their boost on, the other guys that did stop are going to have to make another stop again regardless. And again, we are planning to make that stop anyway.
So that's going to help you a lot.
Yes.
Okay, strategy in the Penske pit. Back to you, Brian.
All right, Sally, through 69 laps. Emerson Fittipaldi is running third, car number 1. Car 18, Gallus Craco. Bobby Rahal is running fourth. Let me run down the top 10. Al Unser Jr., Danny Sullivan, Emerson Fittipaldi, Bobby Rahal, Mario Andretti, Scott Goodyear, Rick Mears, John Andretti for Porsche is running 8th. Scott Brayton is 9th, and Dominic Dobson, who was a logger in the Pacific Northwest, he's from Seattle, into the number 10 position.
And here's the race right now. Bobby Rahal trying to get by Emerson Fittipaldi. Right down into the hairpin. That Rahal has been so close to so many cars all day. He just seems like he's been out of sequence just a little bit. Not his fault. That is what you call lady luck, Brian.
Bobby Rahal is a two-time IndyCar champion, 86 and 87. Won the Indianapolis 500 in 1986. There he is. Car 18 pursuing Emerson Fittipaldi, and our producer Doug Sellers says Scott Goodyear will be coming in. Now Scott Goodyear is running 6th, and I understand Dougie says we will try and listen to Goodyear when he comes in as Rahal goes by Fittipaldi. Rahal is 3rd, Fittipaldi is 4th.
Right into that number 6 turn again, the place where we've seen most of the passing today, or at least most of the daring passes.
Bobby Rahal is now 3rd behind Sullivan, and Unser. Into the pits comes Goodyear. Let's listen.
What's the problem with your seat?
Well, you heard Jim O'Donnell ask him what's the problem with his feet. Let's watch Goodyear come on. He's got to stay to the left of the double line. You see how dangerous it is with the racers speeding by. He's back on the course. He didn't respond. What could be a foot problem?
Well, he may not have a radio contact with Jim. That's what I would think there, but something in the seat's probably broken. They're very, very thin seats. They're just kind of like a shim that goes into the car. And often, well, I shouldn't say often, but sometimes they break because they're just a thin layer of carbon fiber.
So it could be the seat area or the feet. Let me ask you about the inside of the course as Goodyear. Oh, very, very dangerous move to go by Brayton.
That I didn't think was a very good move. I thought he was a little too anxious. He just got out of timing a little bit. Scott Brayton just laid him through there. Otherwise, 2 cars couldn't have made it. But if we were wondering, could they make it through there 2 abreast, hey, we just saw it, they did.
Well, Scott Brayton is in the 9th position. Goodyear is 8th. Let me ask you about the inside of the car. What's on the dashboard? You've told us about the very thin body molded seat. What do they see in the dashboard?
Well, they see a big computer thing that kind of like his graphs that go up and down, and that is their tachometer. It's really a computer on the dashboard, and all the cars have it now. Tells them how much fuel they have left, what they've used. In some cases, they have telemetry that goes to the pits and tells them.
Board with Scott Goodyear, you can't really get a look at the tachometer. Is there a speedometer? Do they actually have a speed readout?
No, they really don't. To a race driver, the tachometer is the only thing that's important. Sometimes, or very often, they'll have a warning light. Like, for example, if the oil pressure were to go away, rather than the guy watch the gauges, which you can see how busy he is, a red light would come on, or a yellow light. indicating that something is wrong, like lack of oil pressure.
Mario Andretti pursued by Emerson Fittipaldi. Mario Andretti is now fourth. Al Unser Jr. leads. Danny Sullivan, Bobby Rahal, Mario Andretti, and Emerson Fittipaldi. Mario Andretti has not won an IndyCar race since Cleveland in 1988. His son Michael was leading, went out with a broken tailpipe that caused a fire on the rear portion of the car. So he's the only one left for Paul Newman here this afternoon as they chase this man. Car number 5, Al Unser Jr., now with a 12-second lead over Danny Sullivan. Bobby Rahal third, Mario fourth, Fittipaldi fifth, Mears is sixth, John Andretti seventh, Goodyear is now running eighth.
Now he just passed, little Al just passed Scotty Brayton, who's down 2 laps. Now Scotty's the one that went through the chicane with Scott Goodyear a little while ago, side by side.
On board with Gallus Praco into the left-right turn combination with Al Unser Jr. Up under the side of BC Place Stadium. And again, that was put in there to slow them down. As Bobby explained, they didn't want to go into that dark area at 180 miles an hour. They felt it would be too dangerous. Ironically, the most dangerous part of the course today has been that left-right turn where 3 workers were injured trying to push Ross Bentley, the Vancouver driver's car. They were struck by Willie T. Ribbs. 3 are at St. Paul's Hospital, 1 with a broken arm, 1 with a broken ankle, and we understand there is no report on the condition of the most seriously injured of the 3. On board with your race leader, Al Unser Jr., down through the start-finish area and into the left-hand turn number 1.
Now what little Al will be getting right now from his pit, Brian, would be signals on how far it is between himself and Danny Sullivan, who is in second place. Like, for example, it's 12.18 seconds. Now, what he wants to do is to maintain that. He'll be running his car as hard as he has to run it in order to keep that buffer zone so as hopefully he can make a pit stop, get a splash of fuel for about 3 or 4 laps.
Fittipaldi now. Fittipaldi is currently running 5th. Ken Daniels.
Emerson Fittipaldi is in. He will take on 4 new tires, and for what they're saying, it's a splash of fuel. 25 gallons. He wants to go out with a light load. Tires off the jacks, and he is away. Up to you.
And Fittipaldi has dropped down to the number 7 position as the brilliant Brazilian veteran is back on track.
Now, he almost spun that car. He really got it sideways coming out of the pit. Look at how hard he's trying. Now, the tires are slippery. They're hot. The track is hot right now. He's got new tires on, but Emo's trying really hard. Pit stops are free time. Anything that you can gain in the pit, it's a lot easier there than on the racetrack.
And there's our race leader through 76 of a scheduled 97 laps here in British Columbia on a brilliant summer afternoon. Sports Weekend's live coverage of the Molson Indy Vancouver will continue. Stay with us. Lots more to come.
Reality check, Monty.
Huh?
And we left everything behind, including
our jobs,
to find this bar.
Great bar.
In the middle of
the Rockies.
Yeah.
Hey, Monty, tell me again that this was a good idea.
The Rocky Mountain Way is better than the way we had.
The Rocky Mountain Way. It's the Coors Way. Fresh tasting, free and easy.
Hey, remember, this was my idea.
Your idea?
Minus 20 bogey last night. That's cold.
The temperature is well below 0 this morning. Perfect to test Chevy's heartbeat. With the electrical system fully taxed, Chevy delivers reliable cold starting. After thousands of tests, an incredible 99.9% success record. With 77 models redesigned and engineered, GM is putting quality on the road.
And as we come back to Vancouver and look at our race leader through 77 of 97 laps, Al Unser Jr., his uncle, the 3-time Indy 500 champion, to my right, Bobby Unser, leaned over me during the commercial and said, hey, we got a good race here.
We certainly do, Brian, but as I watch little Al going around, who's leading the race and running with about 16, going between 14 and 6 seconds lead, I see a little smoke coming out of his car, the back end of his car occasionally.
Now that's Emerson Fittipaldi. Emerson Fittipaldi is 7th. He is about to be lapped by Al Unser Jr. That would mean, as we're on board with Al Jr. down through the start-finish straightaway, right at BC Place. Now the sharp left, fastest part of the course. It's bumpy with those manhole covers, Pacific South. He should take him here, and he does. Al Unser Jr. has lapped Emerson Fittipaldi. So Fittipaldi is 7th. There are 6 cars on the same lap.
Now, Emerson would have made it a little bit easier for Little Al to get by than normal right there. Emma's not normally that easy to pass. But he knew he was down a lap. He was letting Little Al go by. He knows he's the leader. Now, Little Al was passing at a hard place. We know it's not easy. There's Danny Sullivan in 2nd place, running 16 seconds behind. This is my guesstimation on just about what Little Al would feel comfortable with over Danny Sullivan. But I think that Danny's going to have to make a short pit stop before the end also.
Bobby Rahal for Gallus Craco. Car 18 has moved to 3rd. Let me run down the top 10. We're through 78 laps. 19 laps to go here in Vancouver. Al Unser Jr., Danny Sullivan, Bobby Rahal, Mario Andretti, Rick Mears, John Andretti, Emerson Fittipaldi, Scott Goodyear 8th, Scott Brayton 9th, and Dominic Dobson from Seattle running in the number 10 position. There is Rick Mears. Rick Mears is 5th in car number 2, and Mears is being pursued by John Andretti in the Porsche.
Now, I also think that Bobby Rahal, Brian, is going to have to make one more stop, probably around lap 92, unless opportunity brings it sooner. A lot of times, when they bring in these cars for a real quick splash of fuel, if they see that they're at the wrong place on the track, like the traffic is getting to them or something like that, the car owners, and especially Roger Penske would do that, is bring them in for what we call an opportune time.
2 Andrettis are racing. Rick Mears is running 5th. John Andretti pursuing Mears in the Porsche. Michael Andretti, if you just joined us, was leading the race. Al Unser Jr., your race leader here, was running 2nd when Michael Andretti's tailpipe broke. That is Shelley Unser, who's up from Albuquerque and biting her nails here this afternoon. But again, Michael Andretti was leading when his tailpipe broke, and you said that's a very rare occurrence causing the fire.
It certainly is. You know, when Lady Luck goes against you, times get really bad. You have to be looking at good opportunities in order to win a race to let Lady Luck look at you. Little Al, for example, has been extremely lucky lately, but he's been fast enough to accept it.
Danny Sullivan is 2nd. He is now 13 seconds behind our race leader, Al Unser Jr. Stay with us. Lots more to come. CBC's exclusive coverage of the Molson Indy Vancouver will continue on this very hectic Sunday afternoon.
British Columbia is a province known for the peace and quiet of its natural attractions. We're also known for another side. Molson Canadian, showing you the best of BC.
Is your backhoe tired and laying down on the job? Then take a look at the #1 selling 4-wheel drive backhoe in the world, the JCB Sightmaster, backed by the best warranty in the business. Dollar for dollar, no other backhoe can match JCB in quality, versatility, and performance. Take it from one of the hottest operators around.
Contractors expect the best, and with my JCB, they get it.
For a demonstration of the Sightmaster and other JCB products, contact Surfwood Supply in Vancouver.
As we come back to Vancouver, it's Al Unser Jr. leading Danny Sullivan, Bobby Rahal, Mario Andretti, Rick Mears, John Andretti, Emerson Fittipaldi, Scott Goodyear 8th, Scott Brayton 9th, and Dominic Dobson rounding out the top 10. There is your race leader, gunning for 4 in a row. There's Danny Sullivan, who is now running 14 seconds behind. That time difference is crucial.
It certainly is, and it's obvious what Little Al is happy with because he just stays just about in that same spot.
That's Ross Bentley, car 27. Vancouver people very interested in Bentley, who now is running in the number 18 position. A tennis champion here, a racing car driver, first IndyCar race. Danny Sullivan down through the start-finish straightaway into turn number 1. Now 14 seconds behind Al Unser Jr.
Now, Brian, ironically, if the race were to end right now, which it certainly isn't, but Little Al's in the lead, Danny Sullivan 2nd, Bobby Rahal is 3rd. That is virtually the same as it was at Denver last week.
There's Bobby Rahal running 3rd. Now again, my friend, the mathematician, Rahal looks to have scraped something on the front of his car, but our broadcast booth littered with facts and figures here. Bobby, what do you think regarding the fuel? The top 3, Unser, Sullivan, and Rahal. What about pit stops?
Well, it appears to me that all 3 of them are going to have to come in and make a stop and go splash. In other words, about 3, 4 gallons at the most, and then right back out. Now this is really going to be exciting, and what we'll want to watch the most is leaving the 5th to see if they get across that yellow line.
This is going to be a tremendous finish, and this is one of the great appeals of kart racing as it goes international to Australia next March, is the fact that we've gone through 83. Here's our leader of 97 laps. Unser Jr., the leader, we're on board with Al Jr. He has to come in. Danny Sullivan has to come in. Bobby Rahal has to come in. Mario Andretti is up to 4th. We're not sure about Mario, but what a finish. And it appeared that one of the cars was in a bit of trouble. I thought for a minute it looked like Rahal, but it's not.
Yes, and my calculations show that Mario is still going to have to make another pit stop. Now, ironically, all these teams have had different game plans, and they're all going to end up in the same place, just about having to stop around lap 90 to 93 at the most.
And there are 97 laps. Again, they get about a mile and an eighth to a gallon, 14 seconds difference. So it's 1.8 miles to a gallon of methanol. This course is just about 1.8 miles long, 1.73. So you get a lap to a gallon, maybe 2 laps to a gallon under a yellow. So we figured they had to stop at around lap 32, lap 35 because they have 40-gallon tanks. But of course the yellow flags change all that, and we had some full course yellows. A rather tragic accident. 3 track workers injured, taken to St. Paul's Hospital when they were on pushing Ross Bentley and were in collision. The workers ran into, some were struck by Willie T. Ribb's car, and as of right now there is no word from St. Paul's Hospital. Here is Scott Goodyear. Scott Goodyear from Willowdale is running in the number 8 position, on board with Goodyear down onto the South Pacific straightaway. And speaking of Canadian drivers, earlier today in the American Racing Series, the minor league race, the farm race, the AAA race, if you will, for kart racing, Vinicio Salmi of Italy was the winner, but the story was 3 Canadians in the top 5. Marty Roth from Toronto was 3rd. Tom Kristoff from Pickering, Ontario was 4th. And Paul Tracy, who had won 7 of 9 previous races, finished 5th today. Scott Goodyear is now running in the number 8 position. He has been lapped, so he is more than a lap down behind our leader, Al Unser Jr.
Now keep something in mind, talking about Scott Goodyear, right there in the number 11 car. Yes, he theoretically should not have to stop again. This will definitely change the position. He may be able to pick up some.
Hang on, it should be a wild finish in Vancouver. We have completed 85 of 97 laps. Unser, Sullivan, Rahal, and Andretti have yet to come in for fuel. It should be a humdinger.
GM is now offering extremely attractive cashbacks on every car and truck in stock. 1990s and selected 91s. But do hurry, because there's always a chance with incredible cashbacks from $500 to $3,000.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Don't worry, honey. He's too late.
Your time could quickly run out.
This is a research laboratory. It tries and fails to make Castrol motor oil break down. It's the place where Castrol is torture tested to meet the requirements of those who punish motor oil the most. You. The everyday Canadian driver.
Welcome back to the Molson Indy in Vancouver. Ken Daniels here in the pit of Danny Sullivan. Just to my right, they are monitoring their telemetry system, which in turn monitors the engine and the fuel consumption. The Sullivan team says they still don't know if Danny Sullivan will have to come in again. Of course, Bobby Unser says he likely will. They say maybe with 3 laps to go, but they're still not saying. Back upstairs now to Brian and Bobby.
All right, that's interesting. There's Danny Sullivan. We've completed 86 laps. He's on lap 87. There are 97 in this race.
Now, last week in Denver, we calculated, or at least I did, calculated Danny Sullivan. I thought he was going to have to come in at the latter part of the race. If he would have, Rahal would have passed him for 2nd place. They didn't come in. Penske crew left him out. He did finish the race. My calculations were wrong. Their telemetry stuff worked good.
There is Al Unser Jr. Al Unser Jr. trying for his 4th straight victory. The streak began in Toronto, a very slow race on a rainy July afternoon, the 22nd, this Sunday. went on to Michigan to the fastest car race in history. They raced at 223 miles an hour. Had a great battle with his teammate Bobby Rahal. That was the fastest win on a super oval. And the knock against Al Jr. was he could only win on road courses, not the super ovals. But of course, he put that myth to rest in Michigan. Now, he won last week in a very slow race in Denver. And here is Danny Sullivan now 13 seconds behind Al Unser Jr.
Well, a race driver has achieved just about everything he wants or needs to get when he finds out for himself that he can drive on any sort of a course and be a winner. Figure out whatever it takes to win that race. Now, little Al has finally gotten there. He finally got over all of that mystery about not being able to win on an oval.
You are looking at a desperate driver, car number 7, Danny Sullivan. The desperation is he may be leaving Penske and needs to prove his value as he tries to move to another team. We'll return to Vancouver in just a minute.
Professional money managers offering mutual funds, and ultimately, they're all judged on their long-term performance. But only one manager is the country's 20-year growth leader, Mackenzie Financial Corporation and the Industrial Group of Funds. So don't settle for second best. Ask your independent investment fund dealer or stockbroker about the Industrial Group of Funds. At Mackenzie, we're looking both ways to manage your money for the long term.
Coming to me. In Al Unser Jr.'s pit, the strategy continues as to when they're going to bring Al in. They are hoping for a yellow. They are praying for a yellow. If a yellow doesn't come, however, they say that they will bring him in between lap 90, hopefully until lap 93, that they have some leeway there. But right now, they've got their fingers crossed. Back up to you, Brian.
Whoa, we have 8 laps to go, Sally. There's our leader, Al Unser Jr. Al Unser Jr. has a 15-second lead now over Danny Sullivan. Behind Al Jr. is John Andretti in the number 2 Porsche, so that means he has been lapped. He's running 6th. There are only 5 cars on the same lap. Al Jr., Danny Sullivan, Bobby Rahal 3rd, Mario Andretti running 4th, and Rick Mears running 5th. On board with the race leader Al Jr. down into the first left-hand turn through that start-finish area onto bumpy Pacific South and up to about 180 miles an hour.
Half of the Gallus-Craco team right there with Al Unser Jr. That has been the most successful racing team. Normally it's Penske in the year 1990, I'm sorry. But usually it's Penske, Brian, that everybody says, hey, that's the super team. Well, in the year of 1990, it's been little Al and Bobby Rahal. Even though Bobby Rahal hasn't won any races, he's certainly been a potential all year.
And it looks like little Al, the word we have, could be coming in this lap. He turned down a chance to join Frank Williams and race Formula One. In fact, he announced the day of the race in Toronto he had signed a new multi-year contract with Gallus-Craco. Al Unser Jr. now 14.29 seconds ahead of Danny Sullivan. Al Unser Jr. trying to make it 4 in a row, and he is coming into the pits with 6 laps to go.
Now here he is coming in. Now what time is pit stop? Now remember, this should be just a stop and go. Short stop.
Sally?
And that's all it is, just a short stop and just a stop and go. Had a little problem getting Al out of the pits, but he is out, and it was a very quick pit stop for Al Unser Jr. The team is very happy with it. Back up to you, Brian.
All right, 7.2 seconds, but Danny Sullivan has managed to take the lead. So Al Unser Jr. is now running 2nd. Bobby Rahal is running 3rd. There's Bobby Rahal's running 2nd. Unser is 3rd. Rahal, I would say about, 15, 18 seconds behind Danny Sullivan. Now, what about Sullivan's fuel situation?
Well, still, according to my calculations, he and Bobby Rahal both will have to stop, Brian. Now, remember, last week, the Penske people didn't do it. They were able to make it. They have a telemetry. That means that they can take their onboard computer. It transmits to the pits. It tells the mechanic. They sit there and play like Las Vegas and do their gambling right there.
Danny Sullivan has reason to gamble. Word is he's through at Penske this year. Will be looking for a new job next year. 6 laps to go. A slow start, a rather tragic start with that accident involving the course workers. As Bobby Rahal has not yet pitted, he is running third.
And keep in mind now, Bobby Rahal right now is second. Little Al is third, but Rahal has to stop. He's going to have to stop within 1 or 2 more laps, in my opinion. And so is this man, Danny Sullivan. Unless Penske's people have figured out something better.
Danny Sullivan in a Penske Chevrolet, the 1988 kart champion, 14 career victories, a winner this year in Cleveland, ironically, when Al Jr. had troubles with that fuel fire in the pits.
Yes, and you know, sometimes the difference between a first and a second or a third place is worth a gamble. Sometimes it's better to say, hey, I'm going to go all out and win this race, or I just soon not do anything else. Sometimes that's the attitude of the driver and the mechanics.
Danny Sullivan now leading Bobby Rahal by 6 seconds. Rahal is second. Al Jr. seen here. Car number 5 is third, but Al Jr. has come in for fuel. And that's Eddie Cheever, not a factor in this race, well back in the field. Look at this!
Now, Bobby Rahal has probably run out of fuel right there. They gambled a little too long. What they were doing is gambling on a yellow flag. There's nothing he can do but coast. He's out of power. Now, that is really sad, and a sad way to lose a race, but it shows you what the stakes are. Now, here's the next guy. Is he going to make it, or is he not going to make it?
Oh, my. Through 93 of 97 laps, Bobby Rahal running second at the time, leading Al Unser Jr., and behind Danny Sullivan runs out of fuel.
And we have right here on our sheet of paper said he should have come in by lap 92. The gamble sometimes is really great. It's hard to win these races. I just can't knock them for it. It's worth it if they can make it.
I'm absolutely amazed how you figure out this fuel mileage. 92 is written down. You have Sullivan as also needing to come in. But Sullivan so far, yes, Danny Sullivan's in.
Missed him by 1 lap. Now, that isn't too bad.
Now, do you think Sullivan maybe had a look at Rahal and said, I better go in as we go down to Ken? I'll ask you that in just a minute. Kenny?
Danny Sullivan with a splash of fuel. Roger Penske was in here yelling for him to get down quickly. Back up to you.
Boy, they got down quickly indeed. Now he's got to keep all wheels inside the double yellow lines. He did that, and he's back on the track. So now, Al Unser Jr. has moved into first place as he tries for 4 in a row. There is Bobby Rahal, who gambled and lost with his fuel supply.
Brian, it's so sad. It's another day with Bobby Rahal that things just didn't go perfect. I just can't tell you how sorry I feel for that man.
Right now, let's go down to Sally.
Okay, you mentioned that Bobby Rahal was out of fuel, but I just had a word with Barry Green, and he's not so sure that's the case. Right now, they're rolling Bobby into the pit area. It looks like they're going to do some work on the car. Barry's not really sure what the problem is, but they're treating this as just a mechanical problem and possibly being able to get Bobby out there again. So we're just going to have to wait and see.
All right, Sally, Bobby Unser keeps shaking his head. He says, no way. Trust me on this one, he's out of fuel. And I remember in Toronto when Michael Andretti came in for a pit stop, they put his rear tires on backwards. He didn't have the handling power, and when they made that change and he came out of the pits, Bobby, you looked at me and said, those rear tires are not on right. Something's wrong. Al Unser Jr. leading Danny Sullivan, Mario Andretti, and Rick Mears. Scott Goodyear is now 7th, is very quickly down to Ken Daniels.
Thank you, Brian. The telemetry system in Sullivan's pit told his crew he's about 1.5 gallons short. They gave him about 4. The thing is, team owner Roger Penske was so upset he wanted him to stay out there. The crew said, no, he's coming in. There was a dispute. Penske's left the pit, but he read it differently. But anyway, they got enough to finish now. Back up to you.
Oh, great story.
Hey, you have to take your hat off to that Roger Penske. It's win at all costs. That man is the best racer I think I've ever seen in my life. He doesn't care what it takes to win.
And again, they get about 1.8 miles per gallon of methanol. The track is 1.7 miles long. You figure, 1 gallon a lap. They figured Danny Sullivan was off by 1 lap. Al Unser Jr. on his way to his 4th straight victory.
That's a white flag coming out for little Al. Nick Ferrano's got the white flag out right now, or it's out for him already.
It's out for him already. We're on the final lap, lap 97. Al Unser Jr. trying for his 4th win in a row. Toronto, Michigan, Denver, and Vancouver. There's Danny Sullivan running second. Emerson Fittipaldi is behind him, but he has been lapped. Emerson Fittipaldi is sixth. Here's your race leader, Al Unser Jr.
You can see the smoke coming out of the back end of his car. It's been doing that for at least the last half of the race here, but apparently, Brian, it isn't slowing the car down at all.
Word from the pits, Ray Hall's fuel meter said he was not out of gas. However, they still believe the fuel meter may possibly be wrong. Al Unser Jr. on his way to an historic fourth consecutive kart victory. When I say historic, I mean it for kart, but in the IndyCar Series, Bobby Unser, you won 4 in a row leading up to Indianapolis in 1968.
This is really something to win 4 in a row, which it looks like he's going to do it, and there he is.
The checkered flag in the first Vancouver Molson Indy as wife Shelley celebrates Al Unser Jr. The streak begins in Canada, and it continues in Canada. Danny Sullivan will finish second. Mario Andretti will be third. Rick Mears will finish fourth. John Andretti in the Porsche fifth. Emerson Fittipaldi sixth. And Scott Goodyear will have his best finish ever, a number 7 finish. Ross Bentley from Vancouver currently running 18th. And there is Bentley, car 27, his first ever win as he pursues Mario Andretti, who finished third. But of course he has lapped Bentley. But Bentley, driving in his first kart race, finishes in the number 18 position. Al Unser Jr. is the winner of the 1990 Molson Indy Vancouver.
Well, you know, the guy that's got to be the happiest right here on this deal is Rick Gallis, who put Maury Cranes and him together on the team this year, and their desires, their secret desires have been to have a better team than Roger Penske, to be the new modern era Roger Penske. And by golly, 4 in a row is not bad, Brian.
4 in a row is not bad at all, and the combination is most interesting, ladies and gentlemen. Toronto, the slowest ever kart race in the rain as we're on board with Al Unser Jr. going very slow now. The neck not moving back and forth all that much. Remember in Toronto, he's got his visor lifted up. In Toronto, we talked about the visibility problems, but he won the slowest ever Indy race in Toronto, then won the fastest ever Indy race on that Penske Super Oval on a hot Sunday afternoon in southern Michigan, and then won a very slow race, an exciting race last week in Denver. Danny Sullivan will finish second, and Mario Andretti will finish third. Let me run down. There's the top 5. Unser, Sullivan, Andretti. Not a bad day for Porsche and John Andretti. Again, rumors persist that Porsche will abandon the kart series in 1991. Scott Goodyear, his best ever result. And we got to take our hat off to Willie T. Ribbs.
Yes, Scott Goodyear and Willie T. Ribbs. Scott Goodyear was just the star of the day. I think he was just fabulous. Willie T. Ribbs, he's had problems with the cars. First year in IndyCar racing, he's done a good job today.
He has done a good job today, indeed. So Al Unser Jr. has made it 4 wins in a row and all but wraps up. I'm not sure, I don't have my figures here, but let me take a look at the standings. He all but wraps it up. He had 147 points coming in. Michael Andretti had 114. He's now got at least 167. You get 20 points for a win, 1 for leading the most laps, and 1 for being the pole sitter. So he won't get that point for being the pole sitter. That belonged to Michael Andretti. But his lead now is, it's at least 40, 50 points over Michael Andretti, who did not finish this race. We still, however, have, let's see, 1, 2, 3,
4 races left.
Races to go.
4 races. This was the 5th one. They were wanting to get this one down. And they were wanting to win this, and plus, Michael Andretti dropping out, going to change it.
All right, let's go down to Ken Daniels.
Thank you. We'll let little Al get his victory hug here with wife Shelley as he takes a short breather. This is getting to be old hat 4 in a row. Getting into some pretty select company in USAC. Uncle Bobby and your dad, they had won 4 and 5 in a row. You win 4 in a row. Really something, first time ever done on the kart circuit.
You know, I want to thank my guys for preparing the car really well, and Valvoline and Toshiba and all my sponsors. And, you know, I guess when you're on a roll, you're just on a roll. About the race, Michael had us. He was out handling us, and he came up and passed me, and he was going to go on, and he was working a little bit better than I was, but I really didn't get around anybody else to tell what was what, and the guys had terrific stops, and that's what really put us up front. So.
Especially that stop in the end, Al, when you went in, you were in the lead at the time. Were you worried about it, the fuel, somebody else overtake you? What were your thoughts heading in late in that race?
No, I really didn't worry about it till I came back out, and I was wondering when Sully was going to pit. and if he was going to take the gamble of going on and trying to finish the race, but then he pitted 2 laps later, and there it was.
Is this a race of patience?
Yeah, it was a race of just hitting the yellows right, because there was an awful tremendous amount of yellows today, and it was just hitting them right.
Al, congratulations. You must love Canada.
You bet. We've always loved Canada.
Okay, Al, we send it back upstairs to Brian. All right, Al Unser Jr. wins his 4th straight. The 2 of those 4 in Canada. His uncle Bobby Unser won his first ever race also in Canada. Stay with us. We'll return live to Vancouver right after this. Okay, guy.
In Canada, every summer, an unusual cultural event takes place. It is called the Long Weekend. It features strange rituals and the clean, cold taste of a genuine Canadian beer. Molson Canadian. What beer's all about.
Here she comes tearing up the street. Tight curves and she moves so sweet. Come on, baby, turn up the heat. It's a look you just can't beat. Looking good to me. Looking good. Looking good. Looking good. Looking good to you.
Hot one.
Yeah, this is the one we got to run today.
Heat is not the worst punishment here. This test is.
Rock and roll, guys.
From drive to reverse, full throttle, over and over. This severe transmission testing improves Oldsmobile's quality. In fact, GM automatic transmissions are rated better built than most imports and all domestic manufacturers. With 77 models redesigned and engineered, GM is putting quality on the road.
If you like the good hearty taste of steaks on the grill and fried eggs on the griddle, here's the offer you've been hungry for. Just buy a Genair Downdraft cooktop now and we'll give you a free griddle on the side. And right now we're celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Genair Downdraft grill range with a special low price of just $16.99. Visit these participating dealers soon though. An offer like this doesn't come along every year.
And as we come back live to Vancouver, let us update that tragic incident earlier today. Track workers were pushing Canadian Ross Bentley's car when around came Willie T. Ribbs. 1 or 2 of the workers ran into Ribbs' car. In all, we now understand, this is the update, 6 were injured. 3 were treated on site. 2 taken to St. Paul's Hospital, 1 to Vancouver General. 1 worker is listed in serious condition with, quote, severe head injuries. The other 2 have a broken jaw and a broken ankle, and the injuries are said not to be life-threatening. So that updates that rather tragic incident that occurred early in the race, accounted for the long, full course yellow, and we'll return with more in Vancouver right after this.
Who can you lean on when you need to? Who's gonna hold you up?
I've learned a lot of things about driving from my dad, but the one thing he didn't have to teach me, never drink and drive. It's just common sense, isn't it?
I'm the one that's gonna take you home.
Here it is, sir, the Toshiba I was telling you about. Beautiful, isn't it?
It's awfully big.
Does big jobs. Word processing, spreadsheets, networking.
It's awfully big.
It's a Toshiba, biggest selling portable computer family in Canada.
It's awfully big.
Big on reliability, best price performance.
It's awfully...
It's a Toshiba portable. The best.
It's awfully small.
Yeah, but it has inner bigness.
Can your motor oils survive the punishment today's engines dish out? Circulating it twice as fast, working it twice as hard, breaking it down and causing it to lose its viscosity. That's why you need an oil with the additive that does more to help prevent viscosity breakdown. Castrol XLR, the oil engineered for today's car.
Is your backhoe tired and laying down on the job? Then take a look at the #1 selling four-wheel drive backhoe in the world, the JCB Sightmaster, backed by the best warranty in the business. Dollar for dollar, no other backhoe can match JCB in quality, versatility, and performance. Take it from one of the hottest operators around.
Contractors expect the best, and with my JCB, they get it.
For a demonstration of the Sightmaster and other JCB products, contact Surfwood Supply in Vancouver.
The 1990 Molson Indy Vancouver, brought to you by Molson Canadian, what beer is all about. By General Motors of Canada Limited, makers of Canada's best-selling car. And by Castrol Canada, makers of Castrol XLR. And as we come back live to Vancouver, Al Unser Jr. makes it 4 in a row. Bobby Unser with 4 races to go, 20 points for a win. He has a 48-point lead. Is he catchable?
Well, he still is. They still have to knuckle down and keep working hard at it. It's still a long ways till the end. 4 races is a long way to go.
All right, let me give the viewers the top 10. Al Unser Jr., followed by Danny Sullivan, Mario Andretti, Rick Mears, John Andretti for Porsche, Emerson Fittipaldi 6th, Scott Goodyear 7th. I'll give you the rest of the top 10 in just a minute. Your impressions of this race, which started rather slowly.
Well, it did start slowly. A lot of yellow flags, a lot of accidents early on. But after that, we had the best racing that I've seen in a long time, like John Andretti had a good race. The Canadian, Scott Goodyear, think of the race he had. It's got to be the local hero now.
Well,
exceptional good.
I'm just writing down Ray Hall 8th, Brayton 9th, and Willie T. Ribbs 10th. So Scott Goodyear had a big day, his best ever result finishing 7th. But how about Willie T. Ribbs, the lone black driver on the kart circuit?
A very good race for Willie T. Doesn't run all the races, so exceptional race for him. Another sad race for Bobby Ray Hall. Another day when he has another problem.
And again, the track worker, one of them listed in serious condition with, quote, severe head injuries following that tragic accident when Willie T. Ribbs' car collided with several workers early in the race. Bobby Unser, again, I've enjoyed it. We look forward to working with you again next summer at the Molson Indy in Toronto. Where are you off to now?
I'm back to Albuquerque, but I enjoyed being here. Always enjoyed Canada.
All right, we enjoyed having you here. Won his first ever IndyCar race in Canada in 1967 at Mosport. For Bobby Unser, Sally Larvick, Ken Daniels, our CBC crew, I'm Brian Williams saying so long, everybody, from Vancouver.